You're listening to episode 283 of the Major Issues Podcast. In it, we are saying goodbye to CW's The Flash. Goodbye, Barry Allen. Run, Barry, run. The Major Issues Podcast starts right now! Hey everybody out there in comic book land, my name is George Serrano, aka The Don, and if you're listening to this, you can only be here for one reason. It's a brand new episode of the Major Issues Podcast, brought to you each and every week by ComicBookClique.com, and as always, I am never alone. Sir, if you could please introduce yourself.
I'm your hip minority scientist, Gertrude Thomas, aka GT Rebirth.
You always gotta get one. GT Rebirth is here.
You either need the hip minority scientist or the black science dad, which is only two actors.
Yes, this is also true. We had to get GT onto this episode. We're fresh off Memorial Day weekend, and we're doing almost an in memoriam for one of the greatest superhero television shows, or one of the shows that started off as one of the greatest superhero television shows of all time. CW's The Flash, the longest running live action comic book show in the last 10 years, I want to say. How long did Smallville go for? Like 11 seasons,
too long,
right? That's ridiculous. Smallville did a lot of seasons, 10 seasons. So from
that is 10 more than I wanted to watch.
10 in 10 years. Oh, so that's yeah. Very similar, but yeah, for the last 10 years, the Flash has been.
That is also a hellish, it is also a hellish film schedule if you think about it.
Yes, it is, and Smallville did it without COVID, so you know.
Yeah, and in the old days of like the same schedules that the Arrowverse had, where you were doing like 20 episode seasons,
right? Yeah,
a style of filming that isn't quite done anymore.
Right. With Memorial Day and things being Memorial, obviously I'm a soldier, so I want to say, giving my thanks out to all the troops who weren't able to make it back home, all the soldiers who may have lost their lives. Obviously, eternally grateful for that. As a fellow soldier myself, so just wanted to say that. Also wanted to say real quickly, rest in peace to Ray Stevenson, which that was out of the freaking blue. That
came out of nowhere.
Dan always wanted me to watch Punisher Warzone, so I guess I have to soon. I thought
you had gotten around to that.
Nope, still have not seen Punisher. That might be the only modern comic book movie I have not seen is Punisher Warzone. So yeah,
well, that you know of.
Yeah, that I know of. Oh, and the Man Thing. It's like a live action Man Thing from like 2005 or something that I haven't checked out yet. Yeah, Marvel licensed it out to, I want to say, like New Line Cinema or something like that, and they end up doing a Man Thing. But so I just wanted to get all that stuff out of the way. I
have come to find that there are there's almost always some sort of indie comic that got made into a movie floating around that you don't know about because it isn't cape shit or something.
Yes, 100%. Yeah, we covered Road to Perdition, I want to say, which doesn't
even sound like a comic book.
No, History of Violence is a graphic novel. You know, most people wouldn't think. I was actually having that conversation this weekend. I was hanging out with some friends for Memorial Day, and I'm like, what you guys think of comics? You know, it goes far past that. And I just explained the plot of Sex Criminals, which is a bit bonkers. Right. And yeah, they quickly understood that comics were not all a monolith with cape stuff. But even with comic books, go ahead.
My favorite one actually is I'm trying to find the name of it now. I believe it's called The Assignment.
This is a live action adaptation, The Assignment?
Yes. This is a film called The Assignment, in which a a rogue plastic surgeon, after losing her license, begins a legal practice in which she performs unwanted surgical experiments on people. Um, in one case, uh, this scientist performs a gender reassignment surgery on a fellow named Frank something.
Huh.
Uh, but basically, yes, this rogue, unethical science woman performs a gender reassignment surgery on this guy. I think out of some sort of revenge of her. I think she may have killed. I think this guy may have killed a brother of hers or something, right?
Mm-hmm.
And turns this dude into a woman. Now, I remember explaining this plot to my roommate and best friend Eddie, and the best part has to do with the casting
Right.
because he says to me, I am willing to accept a story or a comic book, whatever, where some science medical woman turns this guy into a woman, and she gets back, and this woman dude gets back at her for revenge. I am not willing to accept that man was turned into Michelle Rodriguez.
That is a bridge too far. Um,
Because
what a premise. It sounds
I guess
incredibly
at that
loaded.
point too, you have to start reassessing your life because it's like I got turned into a woman against my will, but I am hot.
I'm seeing now the transgender community was largely disappointed by the image of
I
forced
can
gender
imagine.
reassignment surgery, and a boycott was created in response. The director responded by stating, I wouldn't make a movie that hurt transgender people. Some of them have a tough time of it, and the last thing I want to do is make anyone's road harder. But look, I understand the concern. Is it lurid? Yes. Is it lowbrow? Well, maybe. Is it offensive? No. I'm just trying to honor the B movies that we grew up with. Oh dear. Oh dear. Well, like I said, adaptations in general, they're hard, man. They're hard, and I think
Very.
it deals with a level of your own personal understanding of the source material, but also what the source material itself was trying to accomplish. You should be
Mhm.
trying to go for that similar goal. Um, so when people told me that they were trying to adapt, what I had originally heard was street level villains for the was it CW at the time, or was it whatever it was before that? I can't remember what the if the channel was still CW when all that when the Arrowverse actually first started, because they were going through some
I
name
believe it
changes at the
was.
time. And yeah, but yeah, I heard about Arrow, and I wasn't sold on Arrow. I don't know what it was.
I think I only, what's funny is I don't think I ever, yeah, I don't think I really ever heard about Arrow until my friend was playing Injustice and he was telling me about one of the characters got a skin from the TV show.
Okay, all right.
And he's like, yeah, Green Arrow got turned into like the one from the TV show and it's Stephen Amell's voice and everything. I'm just like, what is this?
Yes, yes, yes.
And I wasn't sold outright because at the time, just like it was hard to find good stuff.
And at the time, I wasn't watching many long form shows. So like this was like, oh
Right,
yeah, these are 23-hour long episodes if you want to try to get into this. And I was like, I'm not sold on this. Um,
right.
and
It was enough work to to watch 30 minutes of How I Met Your Mother.
100%. And in those 30 minutes, they're doing so many jokes that something's got to hit, something's gonna make you stick around. Whereas
Yeah.
sometimes with this stuff, it doesn't work the same way. And I remember, um, I think they were just highly publicizing that they would, it was gonna happen. They're gonna do this Flash stuff, and I checked out the pilot, which dropped on October 7th of 2014, so a little bit shy this year of 10 years. But
Hmm.
I really dug it. I honestly don't have a glowing background with the Flash as a character. I thought he just ran fast. I thought that's where that topped out. And it was actually the show that introduced me to certain elements of the character that he was famous for it, but I wouldn't have known because I don't follow the character. If that makes any
Right.
sense.
I found it interesting that like in my experience that the public idea of Barry is that the only thing he does fast is run.
Yes, yes. I didn't think like I didn't stop to think that he thought fast or you know about the metabolism thing or any of that kind of stuff. Yeah,
Or at least like, the amount of punches he can land in that short of a time.
yes, yes. And if you're Batman, I guess you could just withstand it. It's just something that you can just deal with. But
The
I'm
rule
gonna.
is it's his book. He can withstand anything.
This is true. We're gonna, almost eulogize the Flash. Talk about some of our favorite moments and storylines. Sadly for me, that's gonna top out at around season 5, and then we're gonna go to Wiki to see what they did with the rest of with everything and see how we feel. But that first season, what a cool little plot device was the particle accelerator, right? Particle accelerator explodes, gives powers to Barry Allen, but not only Barry Allen, also creates a bunch of metahumans in Central City, which was a humongous deal because Arrow, which just came out 2 years prior, was incredibly grounded in comparison. To my knowledge, hadn't
Yes.
really introduced magic or any powers or anything like that.
It is the most science fiction you get out of that sort of thing for a while.
Yeah, is what's going on with in the Flash.
Yeah.
Barry gets hit by lightning. I don't think he was messing with any hard water, but he was just, he gets hit by lightning. Wakes up in Star Labs, meets some of their employees, Cisco Ramon, Caitlin Snow, and the guy who runs the whole thing, my man, Harrison Wells.
Mm-hmm.
We go through, we find out a bit about his childhood. We find out that his father was arrested for the death of his mother after a strange man in yellow, Barry seems to see as a child, kills his mother. So his father's framed, so his father's in jail, and Barry becomes a CSI to hopefully, gain the amount of skills and detective work to be able to free his father. They do the most CSI stuff.
Only
I
to
want to
discover
say.
that investigations have to do with a lot of red tape, and you don't just get to investigate.
Screw that. Yeah, screw that. I think the first season they were actually showing like CSI vision, like he was looking at like tank trails, like car
Yes.
trails, and all kinds of stuff, and like, oh, this is a piece of a leather boot, and that boot is only ever manufactured elsewhere.
Right.
So we
And
get
another
that.
thing they probably don't teach you when you're just, looking this stuff up is that, yeah, by the way, they're probably not going to let you investigate the murder of your own parent.
Yeah, that might be what's that called? Conflict of interest, slightly, maybe. Um, but there was a change to Barry, especially in that first episode. There was a change, a structural change was made by the show that I have to ask you about because literally the entire series hinges on it.
Okay.
In the CW's version of The Flash, Grant Gustin, who plays Barry Allen, is adopted by Joe West, who works for the CCPD, the Central City Police Department, and becomes the
I thought
adopted.
you were going to say is not blonde. No.
No. Becomes the adopted sibling to Iris West, who we know in the comics will eventually become his wife. Were you thrown by any of this? And I guess, how do you feel about that early will they, won't they between Barry and Iris?
The real thing won't thing is such a television drama staple that it's just like par for the course at this point.
100%.
Um, the adoption part is sort of just like I don't know if it was something I thought of at the time, but it is so hilariously just like, oh no, step bro, what are you doing?
Right, yeah, 100%. And like, in my opinion, it wouldn't work without Joe. If
Sure.
Joe was any lesser of an actor, I don't think I would have bought everything. But he really does come across as a father figure on that show, especially in season 1.
He's a very sobering anchor in a very real world.
Yes, Yes. And majority of season one, he wears his tactical cap. This thick cap. He can be seen going around corners with a handgun with. Alongside the Wests or the West family, we meet Eddie Thawne,
Mm-hmm.
who is Iris's boyfriend, and I don't know if the show. I don't know. Every time I think of Eddie Thawne, I think of the multiple times that they show Eddie and Iris kiss in front of Barry. Like I feel like they did that on purpose to make us antagonistic towards Eddie, who is just
Of
with
course.
his girlfriend,
Yeah.
and doesn't think to be mindful or worrisome of the girlfriend's adopted brother
No, because
who's also in the room.
because we know that, or because we believe as the fan base that like Barry is supposed to end up with Iris. This man is in the way.
Yes, what are you doing, bro? What are you doing?
It is
Not
the
step, bro.
it's your yeah, right. It's your favorite thing. It is the astronaut Jameson of it all.
Yes. The other, how dare you? You know? Um,
You are in the way of destiny as we understand it, and you need to move, sir.
I thought Iris was a bit flighty in season one.
Hmm.
I almost underwritten. Um, she starts to work for a paper. I think she writes a blog, right? She's writing a blog about Barry. They're doing the whole thing where they're trying to come up with a name. I think she's calling him the Streak. He's like, I don't want to
Yes.
be the freaking Streak. I want to be the Flash. And they start doing the Batman and Gordon. He shows up, talks a little bit in the darkness. You can't see it. That's another thing. Okay,
He's
boom.
constantly vibrating.
I didn't know that was a thing. I didn't know you can just move his face fast enough that you can't tell what it is. I thought that was a
Yeah.
pretty cool little addition, and he can kind of, I guess, vibrate his vocal cords to sound a bit different as well.
Mhm.
But yeah, you got a real OG Superman Lois Lane, coming through the window or coming on the balcony to kind of just talk real quick and then bounce out kind of vibe with
Yes.
those two.
Which also leads to the the very well done cape shit trope of romantic interest is interested in the superhero, but not the guy
Yeah,
inside it that she doesn't quite know about.
there's always two tropes in this scenario. Either A, the
Yes.
girl wants to bang the superhero but doesn't want to bang the man in the suit, or
Right.
B, the girl absolutely hates the superhero and the guy has to constantly be like, well, he's not that bad. I mean,
He's
he's
not
doing his
so bad.
best.
I mean, if you really just consider him.
He's doing the best he can. Um, we'll get
In
to
a really awful way, you just imagine if you just imagine that like Candace just not Candace, Iris just ends up saying like well Barry, if you'd have told me you could vibrate, I'd have considered this differently from the beginning.
Woo! That's they
My
need to come
girlfriend
up.
is making the worst faces right now.
They need. Hey, that's some technology they need us over there at Star Labs. Uh, uh, so I th- this show implemented something that I didn't know was a thing because I had not watched long form network television in quite some time.
Yes.
It was something that I hear was popularized by the television show Buffy, where Buffy would have what was
Which was
called
also a show you probably had not watched in
no,
some time.
no. So it was
Forever.
right. So this was a show that popularized the idea of having a monster of the week, where a random threat would attack our heroes and they would have to
I'd
solve them. Go ahead,
I'd
brother.
argue that was I don't want to say originated by because that wouldn't count because it's a show that we took from another country. But I would
Mhm.
argue that was also a very prevalent trope in like the Power Rangers.
Yeah, no, that makes sense too. I don't know why I think it's done better here and why I didn't think of Power Rangers. I guess
Why?
because in Power Rangers, the monster of the week was always sent by the main bad guy,
Sure.
whereas this was just like randos that had meta powers, and would show up to mess with Barry.
But yeah, I guess it didn't seem to be an established overarching bad guy in the show until like you kind of end up doing the Thawne thing.
The thorn of it all, and we're about to get to
The
his
Thawne of
ass
it
in a
all.
bit. We're about to get to his ass in a bit. One thing I wanted
Haha.
to bring up was I with the metas of the week. You know, you get onesies and twosies, weather wizard stuff like that, and I found it really endearing watching Barry grow as a hero, like learn skills
Sure.
and learn how to implement his speed and learn how to throw, the tornado punch and all that kind of stuff. I really, really I really, really dug all that stuff. But I also dug the introduction of some of these evil metas. But besides Dawn, does anyone steal the show quite like Captain Cold?
uh that guy is an interesting kind of actor. It's just he's one of those guys that's just sort of like in a room of normal talking dudes, he just has a very particular cadence.
Yes, yes, he does. And I feel,
Uh,
I'm a bit behind in fandom because I didn't watch Prison Break. So I'm assuming if you've seen Prison Break, not
I
only is
didn't,
the
but I'd seen it. I'd seen the ad enough times to be like, "Oh, it's that dude from that thing."
yeah, Wentworth Miller,
Miller.
yeah, Wentworth Miller. Um, but I guess it would have been hilarious if you did watch that for them to be Captain Cold and Heatwave respectively.
Yes. Because I had known Heatwave from something else that you would probably recognize if I said it to you.
Blade,
Yes.
he's Dracula.
Yes. I was like, "Oh, it's the Dracula guy from the Blade movie."
Dominic Perel.
The only one I had seen at the time because it had Triple H in it.
Yes, yes. Even though there were two vampires on the roster at the time, but
Yes.
whatever. I love Captain Cold in this. I think I thought he was a great addition, and I really like establishing. He does establish his rogues. We get Golden Glider in this.
Mm-hmm.
There's some beef because Cisco made the cold gun, and
Yeah.
I think Harrison Wells chews him out over it. I really like Cisco. Like I'm talking about, like I'm watching season one. And I'm really digging the Cisco character. He
Mm-hmm.
lightens things up with his pop culture references, his very dorky science shirts. He's just genuinely Carlos Valdez is just genuinely a entertaining and brings a lighthearted presence to the show, but definitely in season one.
I appreciate that his sort of nerdy, silly demeanor becomes their like just a really easy vehicle to have reasons to name all these people.
I forgot about that. Thank you for bringing that up. Yeah, Cisco is the reason why majority of these rogues get a name because he's so dorky. He kind of comes up with geeky names for them, which makes more sense than in universe people being going like that guy's Captain Cold and that guy
Yeah,
is Golden Glider, and like yeah, that doesn't.
it's a thing that happens a lot in TV shows because like comic books are so campy that just people just show up and they name themselves and nobody thinks anything of it. But everyone on TV and in film just get most of them get named by other sources.
Yeah,
They either get named by a news broadcast or whatever like hot headline that a random newspaper gets put out or
right.
some other person. Most of the time, they don't name themselves unless they're Batman because they're crazy.
It's all about the branding, bro. He's like, I want you guys to get this right on the first time. No, I don't want to
I'm
be the.
Batman.
I'm not the bat, man
I
of
need people to
bats.
know I am Batman.
Yeah, I'm not man of bats. You need to get this right. Um,
Like if Superman just called himself Superman, you're like, you think highly of yourself, asshole.
hey, yeah, he got there first. We deal with all these rogues. We also ultimately find out that the biggest bad is sitting right there. Another Buffy term, the big bad, the big villain of the season or even the show, depending on
Mhm.
how big of a bad. But we find out that the man who killed Barry Allen's mother is a time traveler called Dio Barton, who's gone back in time and is now stuck in the current timeline and is using the body of Harrison Wells to do his bidding. His plan is to cause another particle accelerator explosion, get Barry to, be a good enough speedster to, start that all back up so he can get back home to his timeline and possibly kill
Yes.
Barry again or, go back
Yeah.
to that. Talk to me about that arc. It's not a shoe that drops. I almost want to say in the first episode we see that he like stands up from the wheelchair. um, and talk to me about the
That's in his like
mechanism.
tech cave, right?
Yeah, talk to me about the mechanism of letting us in before the protagonist. Did you like
Uh,
that? Or you would have rather
I
been?
like it. I think it's always one of those things where it's like, I think it's a. I guess the word I might look for is it's an underrated trick to have like the viewers know, even though everyone else doesn't know, because then it just changes how you watch everything. You're just like, oh no, don't do this for him, Barry. Don't do the thing.
Yeah,
He's manipulating you.
I I
Uh,
I do like that. I do like that we had a bit of an edge on that.
yeah, and because then when you don't know, when you start sort of consolidating all these relationships into what you think they are, and then they hit you with the twist, and you find yourself wondering like you start asking yourself a lot of questions about the relationships and what they meant and what they were based on the way they were presented to you
Yeah,
when they're sort of presented to you as so overly genuine, and then like you're not really understanding the actions, but that we get the inside on Eobard Dawn for so much when everyone else doesn't. um is good. It's also great for the tension, It's like it's the old Hitchcockian idea of tension where it's like you don't just set off the bomb. You tell the people a bomb is there and watch them tick tock count down the
yeah,
seconds.
literally. And like we said, it's revealed in episode one, so it all has to come back around. This is also the season. I want to say this is the season that introduces the idea that Flash, sometime in the future, will just disappear,
Yes.
vanish in a crisis. Which,
Mm-hmm.
to even tease that at the time in which they did the first season of the Flash is bonkers. It's absolutely bonkers. That would be like hinting at Endgame in Iron Man, you
Yeah.
know. But I loved Eobard Thawne as a villain. I think, or okay, I'll say I thought. I thought the name Reverse Flash was ridiculous. I like the Man in
Mm-hmm.
Yellow a bit more because it sounds ominous, right? The Man in Yellow. Oh, we have to stop the man. I've got to find the Man in Yellow.
The man
Um,
in yellow.
Reverse Flash was it sounded a bit crazy, but Harrison, or I should say, Tom Cavanaugh, played the
Mm-hmm.
character with such a coldness and such an anger, such a pettiness that I was able to almost put those mannerisms, and they're all there on the page of any Eobard Thawne story in the Flash comic, you know. But this show was educating me an episode at a time
Yeah.
about the source material in a way that I hadn't been before. And of course, like I said again, you go back and read, not everything links, but the most important aspects of the character, in my opinion, the most important aspects of the character and his rogues gallery were shown in this. Having that moment in season one where Barry saves all, I think that there's like a truck full of villains or something,
Mm-hmm.
and then he just lets Snart go because Snart's like, yo, like, you don't chase me, I don't chase you. Like, it doesn't have to be, it does, for blood, and it doesn't have to be like a blood feud. Like, I
Yeah.
just got things to do, and you want to stop me, but like, so it doesn't have to be. It's the first, because I had heard about that about the rogues in general, that there were a set of villains that had a code. I'm like, what does that mean?
Mm-hmm.
And then in this show, I kind of get to see, Snart has
Yeah.
a
Like
code,
no
and
killings, no.
yeah, but I'd never seen a hero and a villain be like we don't have to do this right now. Like when Snart tells Barry that as the Flash, and he tells him, I think he tells him like, I know you're Barry Allen. I'm not gonna.
Mm-hmm.
He's like, I'm not gonna tell anybody. Um, Were you? How did you feel about that whole like? I mean, we're doing it in Arrow. We've done it in all these shows. The whole idea that you know, the secret identity, I guess, of it all. After you deal with MCU, for the most part, that's not a big thing. Characters like Spider-Man, you know, but for the most part, everyone knows who each other is. Was
Yes.
it a big deal for the constant like? I gotta keep my secret identity. I've got to run. I guess it's easier for him, right? Because he just can run. Pshum, pshum.
It wasn't a big deal for me because like I guess it was just one of those things you're just used to and it's par for the course. Um,
Yeah.
I've made a comment about this with the MCU and the lack of secret identities.
Mhm.
Um, is that most of them don't have a family?
Yeah, they don't, and thus not have a normal life or a convention for a normal life, right? Like
Yeah.
Steve's not getting a nine
So
to
like
five or a loan or
yeah, the
like
idea that I have to maintain the secret identity so nobody comes after the people I love and my real one is like, well, no, they don't really have that. They just have each other.
yeah, they're each
Their
other's family.
friends are their other superhero friends, and their family is that whole bundle of guys. The only one that seems to have a family outside of this is Spider-Man, and yeah, that went well for him. Um,
Not having or having secret identities in the Flash, though the Arrowverse in general, leads to one of the most comical moments I remember in the first season where Iris straight up tells Barry that she'd bone Ollie, um, cause like because and she I think he said something about like she like he's on her cheat list, like people that she's allowed to cheat on Eddie with,
right.
or something ridiculous about that. But I bring that up because Ali she says that because Oliver's in town. We get a crossover, a live action big boy crossover. Do you remember that first crossover? Flash v Arrow, uh, Roy G. Bivolo, the Rainbow Raider.
um, God, was that his name?
Yes, Roy G.
Oh,
Bivolo. For those who don't
that's
know, that's the
that's really
colors of the
stretching the
rainbow. That's the colors of the rainbow. Roy, red, orange, yellow. G, and then Bivolo. The other colors. You guys people know. You people know. But
green,
what
blue,
can,
indigo, violet.
do you remember that crossover?
Um, Vaguely, because I think I don't see it till later.
Yeah.
Because the first crossover I see is the weird one because it's also a channel crossover with CBS and CW.
Oh, okay, okay. I think that's season two.
Yes.
So I put that same episode that you're talking about, or the episode that comes after, I think, or no, before the one you're talking about, and this episode where he crosses over with Ali in the same kind of camp because it's the one episode where they go heel.
Mm-hmm.
It's the one episode where they say mean things and because another entity is controlling them, but you
Right.
know Rainbow Raider is able to use colors to change people's emotions.
The
So
the introduction of the emotional spectrum.
or as close as we're ever going to get to it in the Arrowverse.
Yes.
I didn't even think about it that way, but now that my mind's blown. But uh,
Somewhere John is screaming.
yes, he is. They're using this to he's using this to affect people's minds. He's a criminal. He's using it to rob banks, etc., and so forth. He ends up doing this to Barry. They call it being whammied, and
Mm-hmm.
it leads to another one of my favorite moments in season one, because this whole time we're meant to feel bad for Barry because of the stuff that's going on with Eddie and Iris, and when he goes heel, he just as the Flash rips Eddie out of the car while Eddie and Iris are driving and like punks him out. It's the craziest thing I've ever seen. He's like, "What? Why you always?" Because they had just created a metahuman task force.
Mm-hmm.
So he pulls him out of the car. And he's like, "What's up now? Where's your task force at now? Right? You need a task force for me?" And then we get Oliver as the Green Arrow, Stephen Amell, facing off against the Flash. Again, big boy crossover. A pretty cool little fight, and you get to see everybody else interact. I think Diggle and um, Cisco are trying to place the bet on who's gonna win. Because they both know their boys so well. Um,
Totally the thing you should be doing in this moment.
I think Felicity and him had already started a thing. Barry and Felicity Smoke from Arrow. They went on a
Um,
date
it's
because this
not
all would have been
much of a thing, really,
pre-Spivet.
because isn't it just like one episode?
I think it is one episode, and I know it's pre-Spivet, so it's not in season two.
Yeah, but
Um,
then like, I almost want to go rewatch that one because I think people like them better.
I remember specifically at one point Wells, like a creep, tries to find out who Green Arrow is to
Hmm.
Felicity, and
Yeah,
she like shuts him down, like in a way that she was kind of sussing out, that this guy wasn't all that he seems. And I remember that being
right.
really, really cool. Um, but
Actually,
watching,
now that I think about it, I feel like the fan base has liked every coupling that Barry is in except Iris.
and it's weird because they there's the first set of backlash against Candace Patton, who plays Iris West, was that she did not look like the comic book version of Iris. Now, the smaller thing, the smaller reason why she didn't look alike was because she wasn't a redhead, she wasn't a ginger.
Sure.
But the bigger reason was because she was black as opposed to being white.
Hmm.
So when the first set of backlash happens, everyone instantly goes to, well, you only dislike this character because she's black. Whether or not she is written well kind of doesn't matter because we've also had not written well other characters that people in especially in the Arrowverse. Laurel, I think Laurel as a character has committed more atrocities than Iris West.
Probably.
She's just cringy. Her lines are cringy. Her storylines that they give her are cringy, and we're gonna get to there because right now we're kind of digging Iris in season one.
Okay.
Um, but once things start to get corny, start to get cheesy, people start to have actual criticisms. But then, we are, you there's already a vocal minority who don't like her for the wrong reasons.
Yes.
And then there's another minority that doesn't like her for valid reasons, or doesn't like the character, I will say, for valid
Yeah.
reasons. Um, and
Kind of poorly written.
it put like the show and Grant Gustin himself, like it called them to the carpet, and he stood by her, and stood by the show. And no one, I would never have wanted a recasting. I just think that they endgamed it too fast. Something very similarly happens. Have you watched The Office?
I haven't, but go on. I know the
There's a
characters
there's
enough
a
to be
there's
like,
a prominent will they or won't they that gets answered fairly soon, about in the first third of the series. And
I have
there's
an idea of who you're talking about.
yeah. I really, some part of me is like, it ended 10 years ago, I want to say, and I should just be able to fucking just say what happens without anyone caring. Spoiler alert for the
The
next 10
Krasinski
seconds.
couple?
Yeah, yeah,
Okay.
yeah. So they get together and they get to,
Boy, did one of those succeed and the other one did less.
yeah, just a bit less. He was in Blades of Glory though. I wonder if he would,
What? Really?
yeah, she was in Blades of Glory. So, they
Oh,
get
you said
together.
she was. Okay, I think you said
Oh,
Krasinski was.
Krasinski was no, that would have been hilarious. Spoiler alert for the next 30 seconds of The Office. So they, will they or won't they in the first season? In the second season, he gets a transfer, so they're separate from each other, so they can ponder how they really feel. Then,
Right.
in the third season, he comes back, and by the end of the third season, they're like dating, and then like the fourth season is about them getting married, and then her being pregnant. It basically goes fairly without um trouble. But by the
Hmm.
time they get to like season 9, they just start introducing weird tension and weird plot drama for plot drama's sake.
Of
Um
course.
very
There has to be drama.
similarly very similarly, I feel like what happened in this show, and it almost makes me wonder if they got to them too fast, or maybe
Maybe because
no. I was just gonna say I on top of that theory, I wonder if um they felt like they had to end game it to cement, their stance on this direction and not tease anybody with like, don't get happy about with him and Patty, don't get happy with him and Felicity. You
right,
understand? Like this, we're going where you think we're going, and whether you like it or not, whether you're a fan of the original comics or not, we are doing Iris West Allen.
sure.
Um, what do you
Which
think?
isn't helped by the fact that the previous show will, by the way, pivot strongly from what you know to be
Oh
the end
yeah,
game.
yeah. Maybe it was a different tack. You know, they're like, we're
Yeah.
not doing that over and over and over again.
So like,
Um,
when Arrow is in fact pivoting far away from the comic book canon of his romantic endeavors, the Flash stayed the course, maybe more than people wanted.
which also which also makes that double wedding seem more petty, right? It's like, yeah,
Can't win for losing.
yeah.
Uh,
We're just gonna pair all this up. Uh, but I I found an optimism in the
okay,
Flash that I wouldn't say I found again until Superman and Lois.
interesting.
Um, and it isn't just I feel like with both of those shows I started to realize that it wasn't optimism for optimism's sake that I wanted to see or that I enjoyed watching, but more
Mm-hmm.
so optimism, through adversity, through situations that like are dire and would just make you be pessimistic or pragmatic at that time and just be like, okay, it's over. Like, like it's freaking over. I
Yeah,
feel like
yeah,
I get
yeah.
that from Cap as well. Like,
Giant hole in the sky. It's
yeah, it's not just being optimistic, but understanding. Like, I guess that's what courage is, right? Am I describing courage? Am I describing bravery? Like
you
a
might be
person understanding the risk and still choosing to go through,
push
firefighters and
forward.
soldiers and yeah,
Yeah.
and all that. I didn't see that exemplified in ways like with the Flash and with Superman,
Mm-hmm.
and Superman and Lois. Ali was killing for revenge. You know, we've seen the Punisher killing for revenge. The X-Men are like superheroes, but people throw things at them. We've seen other Blade is killing the undead, like he's a half undead killing the undead. There wasn't much in optimism when it came to live action portrayals of this kind of stuff. And Grant Gustin's portrayal of Barry Allen is one I'm always going to remember for, besides the occasional, like I very much pair his characterization to Steve Rogers. Like
Okay.
besides the occasional, like the most he'll ever
So
be
Steve
is,
Rogers, if he like just stayed scrawny.
yes, in the sense that the most like you'd only laugh at him because he might be a little outdated or he might be
Mm-hmm.
a little bit too goody two shoes. But the joke is
Sure.
never about him, you know. Like Captain America walks around dressed in a big American flag, but
Yeah,
he gets
yeah.
people's
It's
respect still. You know what I'm saying? The joke's
it
never
is not
about him.
subtle.
Yeah, the joke's never about him though. Like it's not about how his morals or his values.
No.
His you know
In fact, it gets to the point that if you meet someone who believes that that is what the joke is about, you know they never read
100%.
it.
And
You're just giving yourself away.
the show gave me a Barry that I would side with against an Ali on occasion.
Sure.
Where I'm like, where sometimes people see Superman as limp wristed against Batman. You know,
Right.
uh, um, and so like I totally dug that. Um, we got to talk about, because like I think we're gonna spend the most time on these earlier seasons and kind of just blaze through the last ones. But we got to talk about. Oh, this is the reason why I saw the Flash. I didn't see it during the premiere.
Okay. I didn't either.
I was going through it around this
Mm.
time. There was a lot of stuff going on in life. I had just came back from the military.
I was gonna say,
Uh,
had you just gotten out? I was gonna ask you, just gotten out.
I would have been like out a year and a half. Um,
Okay.
the month after I got back from the military, which was a month it was 2 weeks before after I got back from Iraq the second time. Um,
Jeez.
we got hit with Hurricane Sandy, and it took my car and my clothes and like my military paperwork. It took all my stuff, so I
Welcome
had to
back.
like, yeah, I had to get a job, immediately following to replace stuff. But I also couldn't do it. I couldn't get any military points because I didn't have my paperwork.
Right.
So, so I'm working at Best Buy. I'm like stressed out, all this kind of stuff. And because I'm working long days and sometimes working mornings doing setup, I get into listening to podcasts. And
Mm-hmm.
I end up listening to Kevin Smith's podcast. And all he's doing on this podcast is blowing the Flash. He's blowing this show and he's blowing this show. And I'm like, it's whatever. He blows a lot of things, right? Then the video comes out. Kevin Smith is watching the finale of The Flash and he is crying. He is
That's the crying Kevin.
bawling. Yeah, he's
Mm.
bawling. And I'm like, yeah, all right. It is, yeah, okay. It is what it is. He, again, emotional stoner. He's just gonna, he's gonna let it all out. Whatever he's hiding
It's
in.
not that big a deal. Kevin's just
No,
high.
no, 100%. That finale, bro. Gosh, one of the best finales of anything I have seen in the sense of that entire season. Like I almost wanted to
Right.
lock that season in a box right then and there. Your mind goes to where the show goes after that, but wow, for an arc. Um
It's probably one of those things where, like, if you were to time capsule examples of like superhero television, it's just like season one, The
yes.
Flash.
I tell people all the time. Season one of the Flash. They would ask me why I decided like to do all this, and obviously that this was um like one of the Arrowverse in general, because it was so much content coming out that I wanted to talk about, which is like why all of this is a bit of a sore spot for me. But I guess
Mm.
Flash has been like on the ground kicking for a while, so this is a bit like putting something out of his misery. But yeah, when like all that other stuff started getting canceled left and right, it was a very weird time. But back when we only had two shows, and back when I was watching one of those shows finales, um, having Eobard confess to ha- having some affection towards Barry now, because he has had to pretend to have affection towards Barry as Harrison Wells. And now
Mm-hmm.
he has helped train him. He has helped him get through bad times. He has
Right.
like the man that he has been, tunnel visioned to hate and find and figure out. Not only has been there the entire time, um, but now you guys are in a weird kind of mentor relationship. What do you think about that, them addressing that whole thing with the twist, and that whole, I think it's like a monologue that Tom Cavanagh does about how he's led this entire team and they can't lie about it.
Um. Well, firstly, I think it's important for me to point out that, like, this was a revelation for me in a sense that I'd only known Tom Cavanaugh to be a goofball.
Right. He was in Yogi Bear, wasn't he?
He may have been. I've known him. I knew him to have done several episodes. As I forget his first name. But the lead character of Scrubs' brother.
Okay.
Uh,
Let's see if I can find that.
I know his last name's Dorian,
Okay.
but like, he's the brother of the lead character. Um, and he was in a few like silly movies, and it's like I've only known him to be a comedy actor. So like it was a
Dan Dorian.
Dan. Okay, yeah, and like it was a crazy revelation to me to see him play this like really dramatic role, like it almost like from Mudgety to Sinister.
Yeah.
I was like, and just to watch him knock it out, I was like, okay, this is not what I expected.
I again, the character's name Reverse Flash. I thought it was a terrible name, but they did what I love with villains. They made him threatening. They gave him
Yeah,
those yellow eyes. They kind of dirtied up the suit. Like the design of the suit is different in the comics. It's just the Flash's suit with where
but
it's red, it's yellow, and vice versa. This was like a yellow Flash suit that was like getting dirty, or like almost getting corrupted. Like the bottoms to almost his waist is black. Now
yeah.
he has an all yellow suit, but the bottom to like his whole waist is black. There's parts of it that are a bit more rougher around the edges. Um, and then he had the voice because he was doing the same thing that Barry was doing.
I
Um,
think it's which is actually interesting because it's almost one of those things where it's like to borrow one of these internet meme phrases, it's one of those things where people are so flighty about like them not being a one-to-one recreation of the comic book suit, but it's just like no, wait, let them cook with this.
yeah,
They're doing something.
yeah, 100%. Like if it serves a reason. I mean, we've been knocking off about gold boots. Now we got gold boots on episodes we don't watch.
Yeah, yeah.
Did it really matter? Did the boots matter, man?
No, they didn't.
um, you get this moment. This entire episode, bro, is seared in my brain because after this, he's like, "I just need you to help me do this particle accelerator shit, and I'll go to the future, and you do what you got to do, and it'll be what it is." Matter of fact, once that's open, you go save your mom. You should go do that, and I'll go take off. I got a little time sphere for my friend
Yeah.
Rip Hunter or something like that, and I'm gonna go take
Like
off
the
in
best
that.
thing about it is apparently that there is an honest moment where they suggest that Harrison Wells did come to care about these people.
Yeah, the affection. Yeah, 100%.
You
And
know,
the thing is, Cisco was straight up betrayed, whereas Barry's only known this guy for a couple months. Cisco has worked under this guy, so like respected him as a mentor,
right?
and in some timelines was killed by this man because they explore the elements of time travel in that first
Sure.
season that I didn't know anything about when it came to Flash. Besides the story Flashpoint, which I thought was a like so extreme that's why that happened. Like he ran so much because of his mother that he went through. But see,
I think it would have been so easy to just like portray him as the evil person who finally got the thing he wanted and is just ready to go. But like he spends the end not only giving the main character the thing he wants and feeling bad about some of the things he had to do to get what he wanted, but also, oh, by the way, I totally recorded a confession
oh yeah, he's
to
gonna
get your father out.
he's gonna help him out. I think he straight up says he's proud of him,
Yeah.
or something like that. And Barry's not trying to hear any of it, but when he hears that he has the opportunity to save his mother, the one thing we know has been a driving force for his entire life, for his career, all that stuff. Um, we get an amazing sequence where he goes back in time and is going to attempt to stop Reverse Flash from killing his mother, but is stopped by another version of himself who tells him not to. And he chooses to not only let his mom die, but be in the room for it.
Mm-hmm.
So he can comfort her while she died. Which, if you haven't seen it, sounds crazy, but if you have, it's like one of the most genuinely emotional moments of the Arrowverse, and it's where Kevin Smith lost his shit.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, knowing that the only way you could save everybody that you love is to let somebody else you love die when you have a chance to change it was a
Mm-hmm.
level of sacrifice. Like, I guess that's another thing. I don't want to hear optimistic advice from people that I know have never had to work or sacrifice. You know, I don't want to know
Right.
because you don't get it. But the reason why I think characters like Spider-Man, who are constantly getting shit on, are so aspirational, is because they go through what they go through and still choose to be good.
Mm-hmm.
And Barry in this moment chose the world, knowing he could, that Reverse Flash would be free. He chose the world over saving his mom. And
Sure.
yeah, you have that very touching scene of those two, um, which
I think it's almost like it's almost really disappointing despite the narrative uh backflips and cartwheels that they do to almost
connect those dots.
to not to connect the dots but to suggest that they are almost completely different people, that
All
like
right.
the ways to get more Harrison Wells reverse Flash villainy almost undercuts everything that character does in that last episode.
Yeah, yeah. I also think that while I praise, especially that specific particular scene between Nora and Barry, it
Mm-hmm.
I think most people did, and I think so many people did that it caused the actress to be brought back. And I got nothing against the actress, but the way they choose to bring her back and the character that she plays in further seasons, I think
Mm-hmm.
becomes a hindrance on the entire show. So yeah, sometimes you learn the wrong lessons, but I love Barry making that choice, coming back through the like time portal to punch Dawn in the face.
Flying fist.
Yeah, I love Eddie sacrificing himself because it's Eddie Thawne, and he finds out he's related to Reverse Flash. So if he kills himself, he effectively ends the bloodline.
Mm-hmm.
Um, that was pretty cool. Jay Garrick's helmet,
Boy, did that turn out to be an empty gesture.
yes, Jay Garrick's helmet was pretty cool. Coming through the thing,
Yeah,
I recognized that, so that
totally
was pretty
didn't get it
cool.
when it first happened.
No, that's the one
No.
thing I recognized, and I can't remember why, but I recognized that, and I was like, "Oh wait, but how? Like, what is he dead?" Like, I was sitting there trying to
Right.
figure out what was going on with that. Um, and yeah, uh, it's like, well, Eddie's dead. The guy we didn't want around because he was in the way of our hero, and
And,
the girl is
and his
dead.
destined love interest.
Yeah, she's dead. Um, great, great stuff all around. And then we get to season two, and oh no, and then matter of fact, all of it. Then he breaks through, and then because of the weird time fight punch opening of the portal stuff, there's a black hole coming, and
Yes.
it's about to destroy everybody. And Barry's like, "Nah, I gotta try." They're like, "You'll die." He's like, "I don't give a damn." And I was like, "Yo, this is the greatest show." The music is swelling. Another thing we gotta talk about. I'm a bit over it. I'm a bit over it now because they've done it to death. Even like the dorky sciencey music stuff. But at the time, I thought this was the most banging superhero soundtrack of all time. The way
Yeah.
they were able to do their somber stuff for the hallway talks, and then the speed it up and the percussion when they wanted to make it tense or make a fight look tense or an action scene look tense. Um, and especially like in this moment, like everyone's telling him what the odds are and what will happen if he fails, and he's like, "I gotta try," and they ended on that cliffhanger.
Mm-hmm.
Um, aw- awesome stuff. I I bought that season. I have it on DVD somewhere. Um,
Nice.
and to get gearing up for season two. Season two, I thought started off well. He comes back out of the hole. We meet Patty Spivot, who works with him as a CSI, and they're kind of crushing, but he can't tell her that he's the Flash. Um, Wally West shows up in season two, but no Kid Flash
Mm-hmm.
yet. Um, we meet Zoom, who we find out is bringing Earth 2 metas through portals.
I
And
want to say for the composer who is I believe Blake Neely.
yeah,
Uh, I don't know what other show was doing this, but like way to sort of master the sort of outro motif.
oh yeah, yeah. Yeah,
And it's just like that those end up being the sounds you just associate with moments in the show.
100%.
To the point where you can just put them at the end of anything. It's just like I love when a tense moment happens on a wrestling show, and I just go dun 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 dun
Yeah,
dun dun. Dun.
yeah. And the Flash is always.
Dun, dun.
But I think that theme is great. I think the Reverse Flash theme is great.
Mhm,
And I like I like the weird rattle they gave the Reverse Flash, right? Whenever he shows up, there's like
mhm.
a weird like warble in the music, and I think it adds so much to all this. And so we get Zoom, we get Tony Todd doing the
Yes.
voice of Zoom, amazing stuff. Um, the character looks more like the Black Flash of Death than he does any Zoom, and so we're like, okay, so we're thrown off, and then we meet Jay Garrick. So now we're like super thrown off because Jay Garrick's there in like also a super dark suit. Because Caitlin Snow's boyfriend at the time had passed away. She starts flirting around with this strange man from another world. Um, but they had the balls in season two to introduce the multiverse. Hell of a concept. Obviously, things have done it before. But what do you think about bringing it to the mainstream like this? At least, they were getting like 3 million viewers a week.
At the time, while I got on with it quite well, I didn't trust other people to do so.
Yeah.
I thought it was going to be too much for a lot of people. I think it still is.
Yeah, and season one they did a lot of time travel, and time travel plus multiverse is a lot.
Yeah,
That's a lot of
yeah,
stuff. Because in this season we're getting flashbacks from Earth Two simultaneous with like.
yeah, and like both of those things almost have need you to trust people to be watching all of the shows.
Yes, yeah, but this literally opens the rabbit hole for this multiversal doppelganger
Uh,
madness that we'll deal with. I think up until the end.
um, what's no, okay. This actually the issue doesn't come up until about season 3 of the Flash
Oh, okay.
with
Um.
time travel.
Oh. Oh. I think I know. Yes, I think I know who you're talking about. We meet Harry Wells because again, they learned the wrong lesson from season one, which was that Tom Cavanaugh was amazing. So we need to keep him
We need
around
more Tom Cavanaugh.
and find something like. But then again, if that's his greatest villain, it would have been kind of weird for him to defeat him in season one.
Sure.
But he also could have come back as Matt Leinster. But again, we love Tom Cavanaugh. They put him in a very weird position, basically.
Yes.
What do you think of the creation of the character of Harry Wells? I think he's the most prominent Wells doppelganger. Are you a fan?
I think it's good drama. Like you're kind of forced to deal with the face of this man who betrayed you, even though they're not the same person. But but he just happens to be as much, if not bigger, of a dick.
He does, and as you were saying that, I was just thinking, like nodding in my head and agreeing until I remembered that at one point he's working with Zoom because Zoom is threatening him or something like that. So he's
Yeah.
simultaneously also being betrayed by the same man who wears the face of the man who also betrayed him
Yeah.
once ago, a long time ago, which is pretty funny. Um, we go to Earth 2, we hear more about Earth 2, which introduces characters like Jesse Quick,
hmm
Killer Frost.
hmm
Season two is when Cisco starts to vibe for the first time, and
Yeah.
it's just he doesn't have any tech, and he has to kind of make glasses that allow him to be able to see or control, being able to see the future. Is that what it is? I'm pretty sure it's more complicated than that, but I can't remember exactly what the description of his vibe powers are. So don't hate me,
I can't
people.
either.
Um, Barry's dad gets got
This
by
is
Zoom,
also one of
right?
those things that really starts to stretch your really starts to stretch your ability to sort of tolerate how, how many of these characters and superhero characters are gonna throw into the show.
Right.
especially when you're dealing with guys who are like B and C characters you've probably never heard of, so they may as well have been made up by the show.
Yeah. I think it it's like they would just find an amazing thing and then be scared they were gonna ruin it, or be like they almost were tripping over themselves, because with the Hunter Zolomon, Jay Garrick of it all, people sussed out what the situation was.
Mm-hmm.
Pretty early on. They sussed out that the villain is probably that weird guy that showed up and he's saying he's Jay Garrick. And so the show went to several lengths to kind of prove to us that it wasn't him, which did
Yeah,
nothing but confuse fans when it was then revealed that it was him,
yeah.
ultimately. And I think the
Uh,
series suffered because of that.
I can
Or
see
that
why.
season, sorry. I don't think it was the worst season. We'll get there. But I think that was the first beginning to me starting to say, oh, they're like, this is something that they're writing as, like, they can hear the fan base as they
Mm-hmm.
write the rest of this,
Like they're trying to keep up with Tumblr as they write it.
which is something I didn't know was a thing. I think they turn in the first half of the season when it premieres,
Yeah,
and then they write the rest of it as the show progresses, making changes as they see fit. Um, and
dangerous
yeah,
game.
like I said, it's sometimes learning the wrong lessons.
Dangerous game.
100%. What do you think of Zoom as a character?
I thought it was a lot better when they just kind of like left the mystery of it and just played into like the terrorism of it all.
Yeah, yeah. I
Um,
I would have been fine if Zoom never unmasked.
that's fair. The black suit's very cool.
Yeah, uh,
Um, the whole idea with like bringing back Thawne works out very well for me. I totally get the the silliness of just like whenever there's a mystery villain, you just start going like, "Oh, who's this character that we've never seen before?"
yeah. It's
Surely,
I call it the August Heart. You
ah,
know, hey, why do you have August Heart? Oh, there's a new killer in town. I wonder who it is. uh, um, that you mentioned, Thawne.
Mhm.
I love in this season when Barry goes back in time to try to find something out from Thawne. And Thawne like, what do you think? Like, you think I didn't know it was you? Like, coming back in time and like handcuffs him to a thing, and then he finds out that he lost.
Mhm.
Like, okay, fine, whatever, bro. Um, I thought that was really really cool. I thought going back and going to Earth 2 was cool when you saw dorky Barry and Cop Iris.
Yeah.
That was pretty cool.
Actually, like that time travel thing is so weird too, because like to some degree you have to assume that like season one Wells is this already happened to.
Yeah. Oh yeah, yeah. Um, they do stuff with Zoom in the beginning, like you said, that makes him feel more of like a force of nature and less like a I guess a drug addict.
Mm-hmm.
It's funny. Eventually ends up becoming somebody on Velocity.
Yeah.
That must have been his stage direction. They're like,
Mhm.
Mr. Sears, have you ever done cocaine? That's what we that's what we need right now in this moment. Um, but like
Oh,
I
you
just,
have wonderful.
you know how like you remember Bane just beating the hell out of Batman and Dark Knight Rises? Like that's just something that's like
Yes.
seared in your mind. One of the things that's seared in my mind is Zoom dragging Barry around Central City and like bringing him to the cops and being like, "You see, I got like whatever." I think he has like a finger up his back or something like that. He like pokes him in the back at one point and like disables him because we start the Flash trope of once per season he has to lose his powers for the budget.
Yeah.
Like, I guess.
God, he
Um,
loses his speed so many times.
so many times. I think this season two is when we get Grodd. No, season one
Okay.
we're gonna
Not
get
I think
Grodd.
you guys. I think it's in season one.
I think it's in season one. We get more Grodd. I love Grodd. I love Grodd as a
God, no, like
character.
banana.
I really like Grodd as a character. He's like not fully three dimensional. Like he's not like all the way there. In this
Yeah.
backstory, still kind of weird and crazy, but just the right amount of comic book crazy for me at all times in the comic books, and especially on this show. I really like that
Hmm.
they included a big ass CGI gorilla. Um,
Big deal for back then.
the two big crossovers for this season are we basically do an entire backdoor pilot to Legends of Tomorrow,
Yes.
where we meet the Hawk people, because Cisco's been digging on one that's been working at the coffee shop. We bring in Heat Wave and Captain Cold. Rip Hunter shows up. What's his face shows up.
The many L's of Cisco Ramon.
I was just thinking of the Gypsy.
Yeah.
Um, gosh, what's the Rip Hunter, the Atom.
Uh-huh. Yes.
Atom is Arrow. I'm trying to think who else came from the Flash.
Oh,
But
you mean from the cast?
yeah, because it would have been Heat
Uh,
Wave, Captain Cold, Hawk Girl, seemingly Hawk Man because that was her lover or whatever.
Technically, yes.
um,
I think that's it.
I think that's it as well. And
Well,
then
no, because then you get Firestorm.
oh yes, you're right, Firestorm, which is also introduced in season 2.
Yes.
So yeah, so basically Legends is a bunch of metas from Central City and the Atom.
And a canary.
And the Atom and the Canary. Two people that strategically Ollie didn't want in town for him to live a happy life, which is quite ironic. But what do you think about that crossover? And I guess like what that was Vandal Savage, right? I think that's the crossover where they blow up the world and
Is
Barry
it
has to.
terrible that I only part I remember it is the radio?
What happens with the radio?
Isn't it like a radio play where it's like Future Flash saying he
Oh,
done screwed up?
something like that. I feel like no, I think that might have been with Flashpoint.
You think so?
Because
I
that would have
thought
been the next
I could have
season,
sworn the
which would have been
legend.
the first season of Legends, I think, right?
Okay,
Because
okay. I could have sworn that the legend. I think the legends are listening to the video, not the video,
yeah,
to the radio, and I thought that was from that episode.
no, this is the episode where they have to stop Vandal Savage, who's trying to kill the Hawk people, and
I hate Vandal Savage so much.
he eventually blows up uses his staff to blow up the world, or maybe just Central City, and
Yeah,
Barry has to outrun the blast, run back in time, and like save them
not
all
how
or
that
something like that.
works.
Right. Um, we have that, and then we have the Supergirl crossover, which obviously took
Yes,
place in Supergirl. But yeah, what do you think about that? Flash's addition to that show.
I thought that was great, and that started the very fun what is it? They always name these things so well.
Oh, they pair those two.
Yeah, like those two get shipped really hard.
Wouldn't that be like Carrie or
I don't
Bara?
remember.
Bara.
um, which is not as great as the Endgame ship for Supergirl.
What was the endgame ship?
Supercorp.
Oh yes, yes. And there's still Snowberry fans out there. Some people who
Yes, there
wanted
is.
Barry Allen and like this fan
Which is
fiction.
a very problematic ship name.
Yes, 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 it does. Yes, we got to bring back what the hell is that comic character's name? But yeah, I mean, I just love they got to interact with Cat Grant, who's one of my favorite Supergirl characters of all time.
Yeah.
I love they like you guys all look like a young
Shading them so hard.
yeah CW so like CW show.
The
So good.
the diverse, attractive, unthreatening 20 somethings of a CW TV show.
Yes. and she doesn't think that he should call himself the Flash because that sounds like a pervert walking around. She wants to call him though. I want to say the Blur, but yeah, man. And then what I loved about it was I'm getting into Supergirl. Some things I'm really digging. Some things I think are a bit more rocky. I haven't really found the heart yet. Until the moment that I find the heart is the reason why it's one of my favorite Supergirl episodes is the Red Kryptonite episode. Um,
Melissa Benoist just randomly showing her range as an actor.
yeah, just like showing what someone could do in her position, but every day chooses not to. And so
Flicking
therefore,
marbles at like the speed of bullets.
right. So you're not you see Kara every day and she seems one could suggest
Uh-huh.
that she is cowardly or at least meek. Not
Yeah.
assertive, not standing up for herself, not, same similar to Clark
Mm-hmm.
Kent. Um but once you realize what those characters can do if they chose to, you understand the power of restraint. And
Yeah.
that power of restraint allows you to respect um, that character.
And
Similarly,
also the power of black threads.
yes, that as well. But similarly, that's why I talked about the Barry moment with Eddie, where he just
Uh-huh.
pulls him out of the car, because that could happen at any time. Like if you ever really want it with me, bro, I could do this at any time. But I choose not to. Every day I choose not to. Where Ali never really makes that choice, right? He there's no not to. There's always a kill. I'm gonna kill you.
Yeah.
I'm here to kill you. I'm gonna kill you. There is no restraint. Uh,
And Arrow makes that choice for an entire season.
yeah, for one whole season. That was his. That was Ali's Lent.
Murder Barry.
for one for one
Murder Ali, excuse me.
yeah, for one whole season he didn't kill nobody. Um yeah, you have the Flash Supergirl crossover. Really really like that. And I really really like how they tied it up in the show where it's just like a bump in the road kind of thing. Like it's
Mm-hmm.
just uh it's a blip in the Flash timeline. We've lost no days, no hours in the Flash timeline. He disappears because he's testing out the tachyon, whatever the hell, and he comes back in seconds. So we lose no time in our actual show, just some time in the other show.
Yeah.
Uh, and what I also love is I believe Oliver
His attempt
comes
to
back.
explain it. No.
No, Oliver comes back this season, and this is I want to say it's either this one or the next one where they start arguing over morals of how they actually fight crime, and because Adi's wanting to torture people for answers, and Flash like we could just use technology and stuff. I guess now is the time to ask you, what do you think of Team Flash? The Flash primarily doesn't have a man in the chair, a team backing him up, a almost a sponsorship from a laboratory. What do you think about
A
the idea
poorly
of team?
guarded laboratory.
What do you think about the idea of Team Flash? Do you think it lessens the character at all?
No, it's just like I think it's easier for a comic book to write a situation where a character knows where to go and how to get there, blah 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 blah. But like, it's a weird thing where when you write a TV show, you start asking questions that you just didn't ask before.
Right? Yeah, yeah,
Which is, how does he know where everything is?
yes, yeah. And
Um,
there are questions you do have to answer for in, I would say, live action adaptation that you probably wouldn't in a comic or in a one
no,
shot, or like there has to be practicality to some of this stuff, especially considering that they were still, even with the metahumans, even with Earth 2, even with some elements of magic, they were still fairly grounded.
yeah,
They were still trying their best to toe that line where it's not
yeah.
absolutely ridiculous.
Barry Allen is wearing a jacket meant to not kill him.
Yeah, yeah. He they test out various outfits for Barry, and that ends up being like a friction proof,
Yeah,
something or other. So it's all practical. This kind of
and
stuff.
you have to have a magical Speed Force answer to why Barry taking other people at super speed isn't searing their skin off.
Yeah. Um.
That
So
should kill them.
100%. Or yeah, when he holds anybody, it's not just Whiplash, bro. Especially how far and fast he was going. What do you think of? And now it's a trope. But what did you think of the initial design? I guess I would say of like these speedster races, speedster fights.
I think it's the best you can do with them. The only other thing you can do is like you sort of do the Dragon Ball Z thing where they're fighting at normal speed to you, but you know everyone else is just like can't see anything.
Yeah, I feel like people are just outside their window at Central City. Up, they're doing it. They're going at it again.
Yeah,
There's two streaks running up the house again.
if you can even see it.
Yeah. But like they end up using that mechanism a lot moving forward because they have to come up with different speedsters for this man to fight, and that's how they come up with Savitar, which we get in season 3. Not great. It's Evil Barry. I just want to just go ahead and cross that bridge. Um, uh, but before we even get there, what do you think of John Wesley Shipp playing both Henry Allen and Jay Garrick?
I thought that was cool. I I like the idea that there's a lot of like legacy appreciation in this show,
Yeah, in the
and pretty much
Arrowverse in
all of
general,
the
right?
Arrowverse. Yeah, I was
Yeah,
gonna say pretty much all the Arrowverse has a lot of appreciation for sort of the legacy actors that were doing this when the genre was not as profitable.
right.
So you get a
They paved
John
the
Wesley,
way.
yeah. So like you get a John Wesley ship coming back. You get a I forget the name of her. I forget the name of the actress, but the woman who played Supergirl in that god awful movie that is the bane of my existence.
I knew it too. Linda something.
Into something.
Maybe.
Who gets to be like the quote foster mother for Kara and the stepmother for Kara and the mother to Alex.
And her dad was
And
Dean Cain, wasn't it?
yes, yes, but he's less appreciated.
Oh no, it was Helen Slater.
Okay.
Helen Slater
Oh,
is
you
the
know what? You're
mom.
thinking of Laura Vandervoot, who played Supergirl in Smallville,
Smallville. Yeah,
which is
yes,
dumb.
yes.
Um, I think she does show up in this. She's the Brainiac.
Oh, on that show?
Yes,
Wait, oh, on the first season?
yes,
Ah, Indigo.
yes.
Indigo. Yeah. They called her Indigo.
That is Laura Vandervoot,
Interesting.
who was Supergirl from Smallville, and
Hmm.
Supergirl from the movie. Helen Slater ends up being the mother, and Dean Cain is the father, who we were all glad to see go. Uh,
Uh,
I'm being mean. I know.
I,
Uh, no one cries for Dean Cain.
no, no. I got so hyped. He retweeted us once because we
Oh
said something
God.
nice about him because I didn't realize I didn't realize that saying something nice about him was rare at the time when
He's
we
just
said
watching
something
for
nice about him.
it.
Yeah, in a way that he probably needs to. But
He just keeps acting like, ooh, a compliment.
they say, in wrestling booking, you got to watch out for hot shotting, getting to your goals too quick. Like I said,
Mm-hmm.
maybe they went too quick with Iris and Barry. Maybe they went too quick to killing off Dawn. One thing I know they certainly went too quick with is Flashpoint, the biggest Flash story ever, or the most notable. Oh, sorry.
This is sort of the problem I have thematically with something in the Arrowverse, which I think is something we've discussed several times.
Yeah.
Um, where season 3 decides to
Oh,
completely
Baby John.
season 3 decides to the uh completely lament the actual act of time travel because the act of time travel can lead to incredibly um incredible ripples throughout time that you cannot account for, and
Yes.
any attempt to change those changes will only lead to other changes. By the way, please watch our brand new show, Legends of
About
Tomorrow,
time travelers
about
messing up.
people traveling through time every single week.
Yep. Yep. They come. All they're doing is come up with
My
loopholes of
girlfriend Maria does
like
not like that show.
legends.
Yes,
Was it Bebo?
she didn't get to Bebo.
I always think it's Bebo. Um, I thought that show lost its rudder when they took Rip off the out the captain's chair.
Okay,
Not saying that I have anything against Sarah leading the show. I just felt like
no,
he had a more like he had a goal that he was trying to achieve, and again, they just end game it. He gets to the goal in the first season, and then
yeah. And everything I've come to understand about that show is that it became like nobody at the CW is really paying attention to it, so we can write whatever we want,
yeah, yeah, it got kind of crazy. I had a
and it just
coworker
gets really silly.
that I would tell him to tell me what happened on Legends because I would never watch it, and just because I wanted to hear what ridiculous they were telling me about. There's episodes where they gotta like make sure that George Lucas writes Star Wars and stuff like that. Like they're doing that kind of time travel. Um,
I think it has one of the greatest memes I've ever seen.
which one?
Uh, the one where Grodd goes back in time to
Oh, to
kill
kill
Barack
Obama.
Obama.
To kill Barack Obama. Do you hear everybody? Did you hear that? The time where Gorilla Grodd went back in time to kill Barack Obama. None of that fucking makes sense, but that happened on Legends. That happened because of the
Just to
Flash.
hear that voice go, Barack Obama.
Clancy Brown, right?
It might be.
Who also played a general on that on the Flash. I
Yes,
think it
yes,
was
he did. What was the
uh
Supergirl?
might have been Super. No, I think it was the Flash because I think Grodd mind controls him at one point. I think I might be getting all that
You might
wrong.
be right.
I say you gain more confidence in me, and I gain less confidence in myself. But they take one of the coolest, like kind of one-shotty Flash stories, Flashpoint, and they do it in a single episode.
Mhm.
At the end of season 2, Barry goes
It was a
back in
one shot.
time. Yep, Barry goes back in time to save his mom, and which like ultimately changes the timeline, and just doesn't like how the world ends up. Like and he's not with Iris, and Cisco's a rich douchebag, and he is also forgetting his previous life.
Mhm.
And so he goes to he goes to Thawne, who he's keeping in some kind of underground prison or whatever the hell. And Thawne has to save the day, which leads to that brilliant "Who's the villain now, Flash?"
Yeah.
moment. And I like that it was Matt too. He brings him back, but we're led to believe that things are slightly altered still, which leads to what you were talking about, the overall complications in the timeline, things that change people's sons to daughters, gender change certain villains, a bunch happens. They do it again when they do Crisis. They just use it as an excuse. But
Mhm.
I mean, they kind of did that in the comics in the first place, so that makes a lot of sense.
Sure.
So I felt like that was because we knew at the season finale of 2, right? We knew that Flashpoint was going to happen because he just saved his mom.
Mhm.
Um,
I'm
with
sorry.
Flashpoint out of the
I
way,
as we discuss all this, I threw on an episode of like Supergirl, and there's
yeah.
this very ridiculous exchange between Kara and James that is bothering the shit out of me.
Is it what's bad about it?
I don't even know if it's bad. It's just
Cringy writing, the line dialogue.
there is a very bizarre moment where, as you're talking about the changes that happen to characters, there's a big change to one James Olsen,
Yes,
who becomes a hunky black man.
yes, yes. Yep.
And there's just a very bizarre exchange between this. Sorry if you're not a fan of the weirdness of racial politics. There's a
Right,
very,
right.
very weird exchange where this young white woman is trying to explain to James. James is trying to explain that is what the justice system is for, and this
Yeah.
young white woman is telling him that he's going to be out within minutes, and you know it. And I'm just like, the roles are reversed in this
Yeah, you
conversation.
don't. Yeah, you don't. Yeah, I always did find that funny. And
The
but
wrong
like,
people are advocating for the wrong things.
Akara's gonna find out. Well, I know. I think. If anyone knew about that, it was the Red Daughter. She knew. She knew what was really
Mm.
going down. She knew how these governments really worked. But yeah, man, I thought getting through Flashpoint as quickly as it did was kind of weird. Um, because then it leads into this very strange Doctor Alchemy thing.
Good old
Um,
alchemy. Oh, Chris
which turns
Klein.
no, that's Cicada.
Oh,
Alchemy
sorry. Yes, you're
is
right. You're right.
Alchemy is Julian something.
Oh,
Uh,
Draco.
yes. Um, gosh, I knew his name too.
Draco Malfoy.
The actor who plays Draco Malfoy, who is also named.
What'd you just say he was called?
Draco Malfoy is named. Oh, Tom Felton.
Okay. I was saying the character, but yeah.
But since Jay Garrick was killed last season, Caitlin Snow needs a new person to occupy her. So she starts
He's
dating.
another poor choice in love interest.
She starts dating this Julian Alchemy guy. Alchemy has a stone. That stone somehow gives Wally powers. That's how Wally becomes Kid Flash. I did not remember this.
Uh
Um, we meet Jesse Quick, who's also a speedster now. Jesse and Wally become a couple.
huh.
And we meet the big bad of the season, Savitar, the god of speed. And guys, he's not Barry Allen from the future. Stop saying that. Stop adding me and saying that. Um, we also get HR, the beginning of this rubber band starting to stretch.
hmm
What do you think of HR Wells with the hat and the drumsticks? He's not much of a science man.
Uh, he's not much of a science man, and he's clearly lying about something. He has weird limericks, but he
Oh yeah,
always just happens to have like the right answer from a different point of view.
yeah.
I
What do you think
hated
of?
this one.
Did you?
Yes.
No confidence.
It was just like this is going too far to get a Tom Cavanaugh role on the show.
Right. Um, it was a bit stressed. And as a matter of fact, this was the first time we went through actually seeing like a cavalcade of Kavanaugh as
Mm-hmm.
Cisco is looking through different versions of Wells.
The Harrison Wells throughout the multiverse.
Yeah, we don't get there's not Council Wells yet, but you
No.
know it's just him scrolling through. Yeah, doing the Tinder of Wells, I guess, if you will. But the big thing this season, do you remember what the big thing of season 3 was?
um, it wasn't. It was Savitar, right?
We gotta save Iris on a certain
Yes,
day
yes, yes. Okay, that's right.
at a certain
The
time.
Iris is gonna die.
Iris is gonna die, and they have a lot of conversations about it, and they talk a lot about it, and it's
I
what
actually
basically
forgot how early they knew.
they knew like a half season through. I want to say.
Yeah.
Um, and then Barry finds out that Savitar is an evil version of him that lost everything, and so is now back and is going to cost himself everything.
Which is one of those things that you have to wonder, like you end up wondering where that decision was made in the production notes, because the first vision you get of the man inside the Savitar suit is just like jacked, muscly,
Yeah,
very
Transformer
fit
as
fellow.
yeah. But that's why I go like I just go back to like, is it that they're unfamiliar with the source material, or are they trying to throw off people? You know,
Right.
because Savitar originally is like he's like a nothing character in the comic. Like he's fought him a couple times. He is the god of speed. He's fought him a couple times, but he's not. Somebody comes around like every 10 years or something.
Yeah, if you were to look it up, like not only is the character different, but so is the story. Like it's
But
one of
time
those
ran.
weird.
I was gonna say, but Time Ran Out had just recently come out, which was a new 52 story of a
Right.
blue Flash that suddenly appears, a glowing blue Flash that appears from the future and wants to kill Barry.
Yeah, I was going to say like it's one of those weird things where they are conglomerating two different characters into a few different stories.
Yes, but it felt like they wanted to do the Time Run Out story,
Mm-hmm.
but use Savitar to fake it. I think that they got off on the whole reveal aspect of season one. So everything had to be a reveal in these first couple seasons, and I think that's how you get to this character. I think that's how you get to Savitar because it has to be dun 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 is evil Barry. And one of the best shot scenes or moments in this show is when they do kill Iris. And Savitar straight up kills Iris, and no matter what Barry could do, he's just not fast enough.
Mm-hmm.
And the episode ends with Iris dying. And the next episode starts, and it's HR, and Iris is fine.
Yeah.
Not saying that I wanted Iris to die, but it was a very well shot moment. It really did feel like an all is lost moment. Um,
Mm-hmm.
but all is never lost with these two. We end up getting they kill Future Barry. We get some cool stuff with Gorilla City. I think again, just want to do my season Grodd mention. And yeah, we get that ends with I remember this. This is when I started like this is the biggest writing moment where I'm like, okay, what the is going on? Because I was already kind of bugged out about this whole Barry not Barry situation, right?
Uh-huh.
Season three ends with a Speed Force storm, and Barry goes, "Oh, I know what I gotta do. I gotta go in it." And Iris is like, "What? Why?" He's like, I just know." So I'm gonna go in
Thanks
it
for
to
that.
save all you guys' lives, and he just goes into the Speed Force, and that's how the season ends. Random. I don't know where the hell it came from. Crazy stuff. The crossover for that season was I want to say I think everyone's favorite, Crisis on
Mm-hmm.
Earth X.
Is it?
Yeah, but is
Okay.
it your favorite?
Um.
Or do you like Elseworlds more? Or do you like Invasion or Armageddon? Well, I guess Armageddon's like not really one.
Is Earth X the Nazi
Crisis,
one?
yeah.
That's probably one of the better ones. Yeah, it's either that or Crisis.
I just like that Alex and Sarah got it on because you don't have
it's
to do
it,
that, but you did it. So like
it is
that's
one
like
of my favorite moments of like of watching Kara's realization of exactly what's happening in front of her and just going, "You
oh
dirty
oh
bitch."
oh oh my gosh! And with the Earth Oneer, like
Ah.
um yeah, Invasion was tight. Um, again, this is when it starts to stretch, right? Because Nazi Wells is just regular Wells.
Yeah.
There's no not um there's no Nazi Wells. It's just regular Wells working with the Nazis.
Right.
Uh, but where the last season ends off with the them getting stuck in the Speed Force or Barry walking into the Speed Force, we hearing and finding. I said that Wally becomes Kid Flash. Keon Lonsdale is shown in the Flash outfit. We're like, oh wow, we're gonna get Wally as the Flash. Barry's gone.
Mm-hmm.
We're gonna get Wally as the Flash. No, Wally's the Flash for an episode, and then Barry comes back out of the Speed Force,
Yes.
and Wally gets regulated to Kid Flash, and this is the beginning of the downfall of the character of Kid Flash.
Oh
Um,
boy, does it not go well.
I want to say I think it's in this season that he moves over to Legends, and then ultimately out of the show entirely. I also do want to note that in season 3, Iris and Barry get married. Um, uh,
I don't think I think if you asked anybody in that situation that nobody would have a great thing to say about it. I don't think I don't think Keon's Alliance-Dale has much to say, much great to say about the Wally West stuff.
no, no, and
Uh,
while Liz was in a weird place in the comics as well, which was this is seemingly like a hodgepodge of Wally and Wallace in many
yeah,
ways. They still, they still treat Wallace like a second class citizen, bro. I'm telling you,
I can't remember the last time I see Wallace on page.
yeah, right. Season 4, like I said, back from the Speed Force. Bus full of metas gets hit with some black matter. They all become that they're the monsters of the week. The Thinkers, the big bad. Big things in this season is Joe knocks up Cecile.
Uh,
This and thus with his meta sperm gives her meta powers.
too much
with
radiation.
with his dormant meta sperm, he gives her meta powers, and she becomes an empath. Um, Caitlin
Is
starts
it
to.
really like a power per se?
It's annoying, is what it is.
Uh,
Ultimately, it's annoying. Killer Frost. Caitlin starts to get powers as Killer Frost. Ralph Dibny is introduced. Um, and the Thinker fakes his death and frames Barry for it, so Barry has to do hard time. I think he grows a goatee.
mm-hmm.
Uh, is there any of
Something
that?
I would find Grant Dustin does quite often.
Is there any of that you want to talk about that interests you? Any of that
Honestly,
there?
no. And I think the Thinker is like what may have killed the show for me.
Yeah.
I
Do you
think that
remember?
was the
Was there a jump the shark moment in particular?
no. I just think like I know that they were really reaching to get a villain that wasn't a speedster, and I understand that because that was getting pretty tired by that point.
Yeah.
But this was just terrible.
It
It
was
was
quite
just
terrible.
terribly played. It wasn't very well written. The Thinker was kind of a lame character.
Yeah, and it was one of those characters. This was starts the beginning of, oh, he just got away. Oh, he just
Yeah,
got away. They start doing that shit like, especially with Cicada. Oh, yeah, he would just jump. He would just jump off off screen. Like, oh,
yeah.
he's gone. Um,
Ninja powers.
this is also the beginning of We Are the Flash. Do it this because they in Barry's absence, they've created a full Team Flash where Iris is running the show.
Mm.
She is doing point guard, and this people have issues with this, and then um, basically they win with the power of love
Mm-hmm.
because Iris, through her love, is able to show the Thinker's wife, who is gorgeous, um, to stop him from trying to use satellites to make everybody smarter.
I guess.
That sounds right. So yeah, love conquers all. Thinker loses, but in full Predator fashion, as a like sabotage device. So he causes a bunch of satellites to fall out of the sky, but Barry's able to stop all of them but one. But mysteriously, one just gets stopped on its own by a purple beam of lightning. Another shark is in the water, and we're setting up another ramp because
Oh
this
Jesus.
the end of season 4 gives us everyone's fan favorite Nora West Allen from the future.
Mm-hmm.
GT, I think this is your soapbox.
Um, is it? I don't know if I've had a soapbox about the Nora. Okay,
I'm
The
saying
character
if
is
you ever had to, this is the moment.
the character is stupid,
Okay.
or it's just is written very stupidly.
Yes.
I was totally down for the Nora Allen of it all. I actually thought like her little purple and white outfit was just like kind of cool
Sway.
superhero suit.
You mean
It's what
it was sway.
yes, yes. Not yet Crash, but yeah.
No, no.
Um, God, I hate it. I hate Fjord. Um, yeah, she's just written to be really like really poorly, just unintelligent. Like, and it's weird because I guess you're meant to assume she's good at what she does because she's already running into the past.
You know what my issue was with her, and tell me if I'm saying this right or if you
Go
saw
for
any
it.
of this. They were so intent on giving Barry like a baby on the doorstep storyline
Mm-hmm.
that
That's a good term for it.
they almost infantilized or made her more childish to
Right,
serve that narrative than even made sense. You
right.
know? Because you again, I believe the character on the show was an adult.
Yes,
I don't think she was ever portrayed as a high schooler but she's acting like a junior high schooler. She's throwing fits. She's rash, and she's not shown to be all these things. They kind of give her a backstory with Iris by giving Candace Pan a singular gray streak and putting her
yeah,
out there. That, where she because Barry, I believe, died. She
yeah.
was
Don't they
ODing
suggest that
hard.
she only actually has a relationship with the mother?
She barely has a relationship with the mother because Barry died. I want to say in Crisis, and um she
It,
that's
wa-
why she didn't
it,
want her to be a speedster or do anything with speed or anything like that or something like
which
that.
which which then isolated them from each other. Because
Right, right.
okay,
Yeah. And then remember, because when she shows up in Barry's timeline, she's a real jerk to mainline Iris, who has no
oh
idea
right,
why.
she won't even look at her straight.
Yeah. She won't smile at her, nothing. And Iris is like, yo, what the hell? Like, that's supposed to be my daughter. I hate this woman.
I don't know that bitch.
Yeah. So yeah, Nora and Nora was rough right after DeVoe, but you
Which I
pair
admit is
Nora.
which I admit is probably a good angle for someone like Candace who has such a very good relationship with her father and flighty relationship with her mother. Like the idea of her being a shitty mother probably weighs on her terribly.
Yeah, yes, I can see that. Imagine that. Imagine if one of the one things you want to do or are excited to do in life, you find out you're going to be absolutely horrible at to the point that people are going to get emotionally damaged because of it. That's
Yeah,
fucking that's some rough shit. Um, and I almost wonder because in my head I'm thinking they could have just done all that with Wally. So I wonder
right.
if I wonder if they started kind of figure out around here that that Lonsdale may not be long for the show, and so they just create somebody. Maybe Bart would have been, and I'm not even saying it like because I'm naming males, so I don't want to make it seem like my issue is that it was his daughter. I just feel like it should have been someone who has been portrayed as younger, or has
Sure.
been portrayed as less mature, and thus, can act out in these ways.
Yeah, either the character has to be aged down or the writing needs to be aged up.
And then you had Cicada, who was Chris Klein with asthma. Um, and he carried around like a metal thing, and it just wasn't. This is when I
And then
start.
like Chris Khan gets replaced by like this woman.
Yes, his daughter. Is it his daughter? I
Is
gosh,
it?
I forget. I honestly forget.
It's
I
not the great show at this point.
I man, listen. Or they go to the future and it was his daughter.
Sure. Even as someone who wasn't a fan of the movies, I do love the logic of just like we casted Tom Felton to be a red herring because you just know Tom Felton is an asshole.
Yeah, Yeah, but like that's what I'm saying. Like they got too red herringy. You know that term?
Too happy with that with that
They got pleased with themselves, and
yes.
they thought that they could keep doing it. And I didn't like the reveals became lamer and lamer, in my opinion.
Sure. It's not actually this guy, it's in fact. Yeah.
It's this season that I want to say your heart probably stopped being in it. Not only did
Sure.
they do Nora, not
They
only was
did.
Cicada underwhelming,
It was.
but this was the season that introduced Godspeed and made him a one-off villain that got arrested by I don't think his name was even August Hart. I gotta
What's
double
this?
check.
What season was this? 5?
Season 5. She stops him in her in her timeline. Yep.
Okay. Yeah, I think you know what? I think I don't remember. I think I forgot it or something because like
Trauma. I know.
yeah.
You've pushed the
Yeah,
memory out of your head.
I do think there may have been a moment where I was just like, wait, that's it. There's only the one scene for Godspeed, and then like then they come back later with the oh no, Godspeed's getting an entire season,
Yeah.
and then that season is trash.
But again, I feel like they did that because people got mad, and then they were
Right.
like, "Okay, so we're gonna do an
It's
entire
all
season of Godspeed."
reactionary.
It's like you think we ruined him there? We're gonna ruin him for a season. Watch the
Yeah.
lightsabers, people. Um, yes, it's
I do
rough
love
stuff.
that like when a villain thing happens that some rando blames it on like the hero.
Yes, always, and also, because it's been 2 seasons without it. Of course, ultimately, the big bad is ultimately found out to be actually Eobard, because Eobard sent Nora, and Eobard and Nora have been cool. And now I'm getting tired of Eobard, and I loved Eobard. I'm currently wearing
Right.
a Reverse Flash and Flash t-shirt at the moment. I have a Reverse Flash fitted. I have a Reverse Flash windbreaker. I
Right.
made and designed a Reverse Flash shirt that's available at
Hey.
tpublic.com/comicbookclique. But now I'm over him. I'm over it. I'm over
But you
him.
left
We
out the
get it.
best part about season 5,
What?
the CGI fight.
Which CGI fight?
The gorilla and the shark.
Oh yes, that actually I did like that episode. King Shark versus Gorilla Grodd,
Yes.
and that's when they had the little brain thing on him, right? The little that's when they ended up giving it to Cecile. That's the whole plot device for all that.
And
That
it's the
little
most expensive thing ever.
oh my gosh, um,
Yeah, that was the other thing too. So like we spent a lot of time on Nora Allen just being this annoying and not very seemingly not very intelligent childish figure. And then we just constantly get these scenes of like serious Nora going back to see Reverse Flash and talk to him, and I'm just like, oh, you are not very good at this.
and on the other side of it, Cecile's like, Barry, are you okay? And he's like, I don't want to talk about it. And then she goes, You're angry. It's like, yeah, yeah, I got that too.
Thank you.
I'm not an empath, but I totally, I think I picked up on that. Um,
Also,
uh,
everyone's the one thing that bothered the shit out of one of my friends happens at the end of this season.
the end of this season, the season 5,
Yes.
the end of season 5 is, oh, when Nora dies.
Not just not that. After that, technically.
Oh, Crisis?
The
No,
newspaper gets sped up
yes, it does. That Barry and Iris learned that the day of the crisis in which disappears has been moved up to December 19th, and Flash has to die.
for for marketing purposes.
Yes, yes, and yeah, they actually we all knew that the idea would be that if Flash were to go, he would go during crisis. on Infinite
Mm-hmm.
Earths, which is the story he goes out in the comics.
Yes.
And also the story in which they were setting up for the next big crossover.
Uh-huh.
This moment, very similar to what we were talking about earlier, as we knew early on that Wells was Eobard, everything points at a Wells Eobard, I'm sorry, a Eobard Barry confrontation.
Yes.
So, and every episode in that direction builds that tension. So every episode getting closer to this newspaper fuels this idea that crisis is coming and Barry's gonna have to die. Well, crisis does
Or
come.
disappear.
Crisis does come, and they kill 90s Flash. Uh, so like
John Wesley Ship back in the very uncomfortable
I,
suit.
I also don't think anyone thought he was gonna die or go. I certainly didn't think Barry
Sure.
was gonna disappear or go. I didn't know how they were gonna get around him being gone, but
I,
yeah,
I I can't imagine how much trauma you have to have watching your parent die 3 separate times.
I think it's got to be rough, man. Like I said, like seeing
I
people with the
have
same face so often, it's like
like you've seen two versions of your parent die and your mother.
yes. And what I wanted to say, because I think we're a bit about to get into like some of this stuff. Um, I think personifying the Speed Force was a terrible decision for this
Uh-huh.
show. I think making the Speed Force or making Barry's mom the personification of the Speed Force
More
uh,
parental trauma. Yay.
made things weird. I like the Speed Force being this nebulous electric void that can power you and you're able to travel through.
Yeah.
Um, that feels more like it than you go in it and it comforts you and it like loves you and sometimes doesn't and like it's
And
emotional.
forms complete sentences.
I guess it should be sentient. I don't know, but like I don't know. All of that
I
stuff
think
feels
there's a difference between a thing being sentient and like the freaking Mjolnir is sentient, but it doesn't like have a conversation with you about the political machinations of the Ukraine.
yeah, yeah. And so that stuff started getting weird. We got Bloodsport, which was no Blood what work, which wasn't a great
Blood work.
character, and was a one issue character in the Rebirth run. Was it
Yeah,
like a
yeah. Blood work comes in. I think isn't blood work something him and August just deal with in an issue?
yeah? I think it's a two issue. Like he shows up and then they do like an origin issue where like it's 2 pages of origin story of why he's into
Right.
blood, and then but he's now in the comic and I'm like, what's going on? Black Hole is there, and I know they're gonna mess that up because they already messed up, some of this, August Heart and all that stuff. So I'm like, what's going on here? We meet Eva McCulloch, who is the Mirror Monarch instead of being the
Mhm.
Mirror
Master.
Master. And she traps Iris in the mirror dimension and controls the version of Iris that's in the real world.
Yes.
Um, this is when I stopped actively watching.
I
I
didn't make it there because I think even though I was watching the stuff with Nora to I think toward the end, I think I like a lot of people fell off a lot of things once the COVID shows stoppages happened.
mhm.
Um, because as we discussed earlier, this is where a lot of shows ended up just stopping production because COVID hit hard.
I have a I have a take.
Go for it.
And it might be
Not great.
controversial.
Okay, it
Yeah,
might be controversial. Okay.
it might be controversial. I'm trying to see how I think I'm relatively intelligent, so I'm trying to see how I'm gonna word this. I
Sure.
actually think that the problem it wasn't COVID. I think the problem was
There's a problem. But,
no. I mean like I'm talking about the decline in quality. I don't think that
Okay.
COVID was. I think it didn't help. but I don't think it was what started to cause that decline.
Oh no,
Sadly,
no, no.
I
I was just saying that like I think it was one of those things where the show went away for several months and like
oh yeah,
it was able to fade away enough in the back to where when they were like the Flash is coming back and I was just like, yeah, I'm not doing this
I remember what it
again.
was last time I went, and yeah, I'm not really up for that again. And they're splitting those. That's when they started to split the seasons, like give it a bunch of time in between, like crazy amount of time in between, or just do like 3 episodes and stop, and do a couple more episodes and stop.
Oh yeah, the
Um,
breaks would get weird.
yeah, I think that the Flash started to decline uh, in 2017, which would have been around the fourth season, which is when they introduced Nora West Allen in the Thinker season,
Sure.
because that's the year that Andrew Kreisberg
Andrew
is,
Christ, yep.
is fired. And sadly, I think that the how I'm going to word this. I think a sex pest was the best part of the
I don't
Flash.
think well I I don't think there's any particular like right or wrong way to word it. I think there's just the facts, and there's the facts that like for whatever, however way you want to think about it, it would appear on paper that Andrew Kreisberg was just a superior showrunner to whoever they had gotten after that fact,
Yeah.
and it's a shame that he turned out to be a not so great person.
Yes. Yes. And I don't ever want it to be misconstrued that I don't, I think his successes outweigh his crimes, because he is exactly where he needs to be right now, which is in disgrace. But I do find it very strange because this happened in the middle of these seasons. He was
Yeah.
released, or when the allegations and stuff happened and he was fired,
Yes.
and it just almost instantly makes a
Plummeted.
turn. Yeah, it makes a turn. I want to say that, so if we're in season 6, then this is Arrow season 7, which is this is the first season of Richard Dragon. No, second.
Sure.
Yeah, I think it's the second season
And
of
I
Richard Dragon, which was those when that
um
stuff started getting really weird.
what season of Supergirl would this have been?
5.
Season 5?
Yeah, Rain.
Um so I was going to make a connection there,
Hmm.
um, which would have been that this would be there'd be an interesting there would be an interesting connection if it all like if we went further into the investigation and could actually make it all make sense.
Yeah.
You might find an interesting connection between the absence of Andrew Kreisberg, the entry of whoever the new showrunner is, and much more contemporary villain choices.
Right, like just picking up a comic and going, this was in the last one.
Recent
So we're
ones.
gonna, yeah, so we're gonna do, yeah, the ones that are on the shelf basically, and going, yeah, let's
Yes.
do that guy, that cover looks cool, let's do that.
We
Um,
chose recent ones for we chose recent villains for the Flash in the Godspeed stuff and bringing in the detective Mina. I forgot her
yeah,
name that
yeah,
quickly. Yeah.
yep,
And and then Supergirl does Rain, which while not the most recent, is also a situation where they actually used a Supergirl villain and not a Superman villain that was altered and twisted in a way to fit the Supergirl show.
I wonder if,
They also had Arrow introduces Emiko Queen, who is created, I think is created for the Rebirth One.
yes,
So like
Miko,
everything
yep,
gets very contemporary when Kreisberg is gone,
yeah.
which I think is an
Um,
interesting change
it
that
wouldn't be
happened across
season.
the board.
I want to make a correction. It would have been season 3, but yeah, that would have been the rain season.
Okay,
I feel like I said 5.
you did.
It's season 3, but it is the rain season, which would have been the Mon-El. Yeah.
Ah,
Yeah. Yeah.
ah,
Yep.
not
That sounds about
Monel.
right. Sounds about right.
Everyone's favorite thing.
The rest is going to come from Wikipedia, people. In the 7th season, the team continues their fight against Eva as they successfully create a new Speed Force. Okay, I vaguely remember this. They create an artificial Speed Force.
Mhm.
Um, and Caitlin and Frost are broken up into two different bodies, as opposed to being well. Okay, talk to that. Talk to that. What do you feel about the? What do you feel about their lack of overall commitment to just making Caitlin Snow Killer Frost? Is I guess the question I want to ask you.
I can only assume that there's an idea of just like how do we make like is Killer Frost a redeemable character after all we've made her do? And I'm just like I don't know, maybe. I don't know who Killer Frost is because technically she's a different person because of the crisis thing.
Right.
So I don't know if she is.
I feel
But then
like
they just decided that like, yeah, this isn't what we can do.
I feel like I would have been fine with even any characterization, but stick to it. Like you understand, like put your feet down.
Yes.
It felt weird going back and forth. Season one, there is no Killer Frost. Season two, Killer Frost is a doppelganger on another Earth. Season three, Caitlyn's Killer Frost. Season four, well, no, Killer Frost is a split personality.
Mm-hmm.
You know, season seven, they're split up into two different people.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I think season eight, she might die, and then season nine, they bring in somebody else, a different Keon, as we were just talking about not too
A
long ago.
different identity.
The heroes of it all. So what I always hated about heroes when heroes did that shit, and yeah, this is all before the writer strike, people. But anyway, this current writer strike, I found out because I was still kind of watching at this point that they were doing, like you said, one of the most recent and absolutely untested, absolutely completely thought out storylines in the Flash. The introduction of breaking the Force barrier and bringing in the forces: Sage Force, Still Force, and Strength Force. And
Yeah, like I think this was a story that Joshua Williamson was still writing when the TV show decided to do it.
I believe that as well. We were just I could tell you right now because the Speed Force breaks during the Flash War.
Oh no, God, not the
Or the
Flash War.
and the Flash War
God, that
wa-
annoyed me.
was in 2018, July of 2018, and
Okay.
that season was in 2021. Well,
Mm,
it came out in 2021, so it would have been worked on half in 2019 and half like whenever they could during COVID.
okay. The Flash
Uh,
War was not great.
and it didn't really go anywhere, you know.
No, it really didn't.
Um, it hit some like sore spots between fans between Wally and Barry, and then ultimately, yeah, just it ended up not going anywhere.
And
But
they would just continue to abuse the name of Wally West for quite some time.
yes, yes, um, we this is when we start getting the weird clones of Godspeed. Bart Allen eventually shows up, which I guess is cool. I think the kid pretty all right, you know.
Mm-hmm.
I don't love or hate him either way, but
No, actually, I've not seen any of him.
this just feels like he's played by Jordan Fisher.
Okay.
Nora West Allen being played by Jessica Parker Kennedy.
Yes.
Um, it just feels like a sinking ship. It feels like adding weight to a sinking
That's
ship.
fair.
And so it just starts getting, like I said, it's like one of those people that you kind of tolerate the presence of.
Uh-huh.
And so, like any even light thing they do to annoy you is enough to set you off because you're already are only kind of tolerating it. At this
Yeah,
point,
yeah, yeah.
I'm only kind of tolerating this show, and so any little annoyance is a major annoyance to me.
Right.
They bring in Allegra and they do this whole like Central City Citizen thing. So now we're constantly going to Iris in the newspaper and what's going on over there. And Barry's doing something over here, and we have to stop by Cecile because she's doing something because she's now a DA meta. and she's
Uh-huh.
trying to help other metas as a DA by secretly unleashing
Which,
their
by the way,
emotions.
Cecile becomes a harder character to watch as you find that Joe West is slowly spending less and less time on the show.
Yeah, she's being phased out, and they're almost using her as a surrogate parent figure. But she is still relatively new to all of this, and so she starts becoming unlikable. And so you're dealing with a host of unlikable characters, very, very familiar, almost recycled storylines, cliche running sequences because now we've seen them all. It's been 8 years at this point.
Mm-hmm.
Um, the show can only go. There's not many places the show can go.
No.
Um, so I want to say started in season 8. Oh, sorry, 7.
And I want to be
And
clear, like, it is. It's whether you want to say it's because it's a superhero show or anything else, like 9 seasons is a lot of writing.
it is 9 seasons at mostly, for the most part, 23 episodes a season. It was 23 for the first 4. You
Yeah.
know,
So like to keep something fresh after the first 100 episodes is hard work.
and like I said, I feel like they were hot shotting. You couldn't do Attitude
Right.
Era booking for 9 years straight.
No. This
People
is
would
why, contrary to
people
popular understanding, it only lasted for like two.
right, and people would be dead because if you keep raising the stakes, how far can you raise the stakes? And the Flash got to some of those things really, 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 really fast. Maybe they should have stressed out Eobard for another season. Maybe
Right.
they should have. Uh, I can't act to be like some sort of script doctor and stuff. I just it really did pain me when the show that I really started to like started to get bad, started to
Of course.
decline in qualities. I started to get holes in it. Um, and it was more palatable on a plate of Arrowverse, even in its mediocrity in later seasons, if that makes any sense.
It
Because
does.
it becomes part of a mediocre buffet, but at least I'm full, right? And now that nothing else is at the buffet, but this mediocre meal by itself, it's not worth it. It's
Sure.
not worth. It's not worth checking in for me. So that's when I started watching. I'm watching Doom Patrol. I'm watching Swamp Thing, which got canceled.
I
Uh,
still haven't seen season 4.
of Doom Patrol. I'm going to start that soon. I have to
Okay.
like. I'm talking
You
about
let
like.
me know.
I'm talking about like this week because I got to pull that Band-Aid off, man.
Yeah.
They were there for me and we were cool. They
You
just
know,
became different people, and I gotta see
kind of
if they're
literally,
still those
right?
people. No. Oh yes, it's anyways.
I was saying, yeah, you said they became different people. I said kind of literally.
Yeah, 100%. And I was about to say they probably Brendan Fraser was probably like, "You guys got some more of that money? Because I'm an Oscar winner now. God damn near
Uh,
Oscar winner on on all this stuff is on Max. When back in my day, it was on DCU. There was an app called DC Universe, and you used to be able to watch DC shows and read comic books. Okay, Grandpa, whatever you say. Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh. Okay.
What are you remembering? What are you seeing?
Well, Armageddon with Despero. I forgot they were doing that whole weird Joe West died because he fell on the train tracks
Okay.
storyline, and then they were trying to figure out how he died. And then they said that the Dawn created a reverse Flashpoint. This is when they.
How?
This is when I forget. This is when remember Batwoman? They're throwing a party for Dawn because he's married to Iris.
Yes.
Yeah,
Yes.
and
I'm gonna say a terrible thing and say that I mostly remember it for
Javika Leslie.
Batwoman's dress.
She was gorgeous, man. She was absolutely gorgeous and talented as well. Shame to see that show go. But yeah, man,
I'm not
like,
exactly ashamed to see that show go, but
but but
I
me
hope you do other things.
me and you decided to tap in for Armageddon to see had things
Yes.
really gone as awry. We try to give things second chances. We both went in, and I think we both decided no, there's no reason we have to come back after this. Um, and I believe Yogi famously says that his Flash died in Flashpoint. or Crisis. Like that was his ending was Crisis, and he doesn't need to continue on past that. So I don't blame him. But after Armageddon, the Team Flash deals with the birth of Deathstorm.
Mm-hmm.
You care about that? That Deathstorm?
Um, Deathstorm was
Evil Ronnie, I guess.
was it? Oh yeah, okay. Was that like the dark? Fuck.
Deathstorm was originally the Earth 3 Firestorm in the comics.
Okay,
That's who
really?
that is. Yeah.
Okay, see that I just didn't know.
Yeah. He let me double check that, but I'm almost freaking certain. Like like the cause that's the evil Earth, That's Ultraman, um what you call it? Yeah, he's a counterpart to it was created by Jeff Johns. What did I say he was in?
Jeff,
He's
Earth
in
3.
Forever Evil. He's in Forever Evil.
Okay, where it was the
Blackest
other evil versions of
yeah,
everything.
Blackest Night. Yeah, evil. Yeah, because it's the Earth 3 people. They're from Earth 3 people are that's the Squadron Supreme. I think I'm messing all this up. The Earth 3 people are the Justice Syndicate. It's late,
Yes.
people. It's late, and we gotta end this uh funeral. So let's get to the end of this show. But I'm not going to talk about the end of season 9 because I haven't seen the last episode yet. And I think what I'm going to do is next time you're on the podcast, GT, we will
Mm-hmm.
have both seen that, and we'll talk about it before we talk about our main topic. We'll just talk about whether we felt anything for anyone, and if we'd like how they tied up anything up.
Yeah, I know I have to be there for the end. I just don't know if it's gonna hurt me in a way I didn't expect.
Right.
Um, it's hard to be there for the end when it's not great. Like I still haven't finished Supergirl. I like Supergirl for more of it than I didn't like it.
Okay.
I just have to get through the end, and the end was tough because like the last season had only just sort of come off all the COVID stuff, and they were doing the stuff where they take so many breaks between shows.
Yeah. And they only had one season after Crisis, right?
I think they did, yeah,
And so they had to deal with the ramifications of that as well.
yeah.
Like all of that was shoved in everything.
So there's a
Um,
lot going on, but man, I'd have to just show up for these moments to end it, and I like it's the end of the entire Arrowverse. I feel like I should be there for as much
yeah.
time as I put in.
Yeah. Similar. I didn't realize when I actually stopped. I felt like I had seen more than I hadn't, and I have, but like 2 chunky seasons of not seeing episode to episode. I do feel like I've disconnected a bit. Um, the 9th season had Red Death in it, and when I found out they were doing that, I was like, yeah, it's all gone. It's all over. Like
And
Red
then
Death is barely a character. You know, like
and and then she's played by Javiska Leslie, who was playing Batwoman for reasons
eh,
we don't understand.
but Batwoman was canceled after the 3rd season, which was right before this season premiered. We already knew Batwoman was canceled. I don't
And
mind
now
her
she's
working,
and
but it
now
was
she's
weird.
saying old Batman lines from all the other movies.
People are now memeing this show.
Yeah.
There are people taking portions of this show and sharing and going, "Can you believe this is where the show has gone?" And it's because the average viewership in millions for season 1 was 4.62 million for that season.
Right.
For season 8 is 1.4.
Mm.
Precipitous. is the word I think people use in this situation. I do not like that this thing is failing. I never want people to be out of work. I never want people to have people angry at them, and I've never chosen to use my time to voice my displeasure in, angry tweets at these writers or anything else like that. Don't do that, people. Art's art. If you don't like it, go to another museum.
Yeah,
Um,
seriously.
that's all it is. Like, imagine going to a museum and just start smashing things because you don't like what's inside. It sounds dumb as hell, right? Just leave the museum. Go to another museum.
Yeah, man. It's a lot of wasted energy.
A lot of wasted energy. Did you watch the Arrow return episode that is
I have not
in this
yet.
season? Okay, so we might have to back those two. Because I think that's gonna be at least be like the shot of whiskey before, before before we get the bullet.
Yeah, I have found that I'm really only interested in the cameo episodes and like the 1 4-parter.
Okay. Yeah.
Um,
I think that's the end of the season.
do they get Kara back?
I didn't hear anything about getting Kara back, which is a damn shame.
I don't think. I don't think they did. And the character who played Cisco I recently saw that like the schedule wasn't working out.
Yeah, from all the photos I see that they got Savitar back, they got Zoom back, they got.
Why would you want those back?
Eddie's playing Cobalt Blue.
I heard Eddie's just mad.
Eddie's playing Cobalt Blue in this. He gets reintroduced as a character named something absolutely ridiculous, like Malcolm something. Which I was like, that doesn't
alliteration.
Yeah, it was it says, oh, okay, that was a season we saw. I was like, what the hell? Boom. It says in season 9, Cat Grant offered to buy the Central City Citizen.
Okay,
that's interesting.
That's funny.
I should probably talk about Chester and Allegra.
Who are Chester and Allegra? Oh, okay. Wait, Chester's the new hip science guy.
Allegra is the Hispanic hire. Because they lost Cisco Valdez and then Carlos Valdez when they lost Carlos Valdez and then bringing Chester P. Runk. These characters are okay. These characters are okay. My issue is they were then splitting these plots between like Chester and Allegra, Cecile, whatever Cecile's doing, whatever Iris is doing, and then Barry. So you're getting kind of like a quarter flash throughout this whole thing.
Yeah, I guess that's the one thing about like the team aspect. Like there was a much tighter team aspect to the show earlier in the time, and that roster of characters just got more bloated, and you had more and more people to serve.
Yeah,
and they didn't know how to do it. Plus, like you're trying to serve such a parade of main characters, then you have to also serve the villain of the story, and then they're
they're getting edicts from Warner Brothers in general.
Yes,
right? Who's also doing their own kind of messed up universe, because we knew that there was several points in which the Arrowverse was affected, having characters killed off because they're about to be introduced in live action, stuff like that.
Right, and
realized Boomerang came back after all the after other Boomerang died.
And because of silly real life shit, we lost both Disneys in the end, and then we had to do new shit.
Yeah, so like it was a series seemingly falling on itself. It was like the longest, like when an old person falls, it's just like a prolonged descent. It says Joe and Cecile get engaged in the finale. I'll tell you that. I thought they were married. That's why I told you that.
I love it.
Yeah, so we're just like how the Flash left us, we were gonna leave you guys completely unsatisfied by not covering the last episode. But
dropping our several roses.
Random stuff, GT. What do you remember about the Flash? What are you taking back from the Flash? It could be moments, it could be quotes. I'm always gonna remember you can't lock up the darkness.
Oh my
What did you
god.
say? You can't lock up the darkness. I always remember
Ah,
science, and with the power
science.
of science.
I guess I'll just always remember just like a really good show that probably knew how to tell its stories better when they were dealing with an inept character and his found family more than the actual like height of the comic book superherodom of it all.
I can see that. Yeah, he almost stopped learning or
Yeah,
stop pursuing the fact that he may not know everything.
and
Um,
just like yeah, and then just things just get dumber and dumber, and we have to find new ways to make interesting villains. That's difficult, man.
oh, Malcolm Gilmore is the name of Eddie Thawne's
Okay.
character. Um, I, like I said, I really think that this show set a good standard. I just wish it would have been able to keep it. I will always remember the music. I always remember that musical note. I always
Mm-hmm.
remember when it's done in piano because we're in the hallway and we have to talk. I'll remember when um Barry tells Joe he doesn't want to go save his mom because he might lose Joe as a
Sure.
father, and Joe's
Right.
like, "What? You're never gonna lose me, all right? You hear me? You hear me? You're never gonna lose me." I was like, "Yo, Joe West." Um, I will never forget how truly firing on all cylinders this show was in season one. How
Yeah.
likable everyone was. How we were all a bit curious, all a bit optimistic. Like maybe the world was in general. Who knows? But yeah, man. I'm gonna miss this show, but more so like an ex. I'm gonna miss what I think I remember of this show, not what this show, possibly not what this show is, but the moments I had with it, at its peak.
It
And
starts so well.
absolutely, I will almost argue that there's no other show that starts and ends as well.
Mm,
Doom Patrol pleased me. Doom Patrol's at the end of the season one pleased me because it just left me
sure.
in the middle of nowhere, and I was like, okay,
And it's just
I'm,
and there's a lot of different to behold.
yeah, yeah. Um, but pouring one out for my homie Barry Allen, the fastest man alive,
Mm.
and the rest of Team Flash. Thank you for everything. Thank you for starting up the particle accelerator 18 million times, breaking the timeline way more times than you probably should have. Seeing your parents die and people with faces of the ones you love die, multiple different realities and multiple different timelines. Having friends stab you in the back for multiple different timelines, and having yourself having to kill yourself at one point. Uh, yeah, man, hell of a show. This was a hell of an episode. I can't wait to we give this some time and see this last episode. But yeah, next week we will be covering Spider Verse. It's gonna be like jam packed. It's gonna be like Spider Verse next week,
Jesus
and then
Christ.
2 weeks after that is the
Oh, you mean
Flash.
the movie?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Okay,
But not
because
the
that
book.
book is a lot.
The book is a lot. I think we've covered it. We haven't covered Spider Geddon yet.
That
Which
one is less.
I agree. I think the first one's a bit thin. Okay, on a reread, I was this is by a thread. It's entertaining thread, but it's by, you know what I'm saying? But it's by a thread, man. You pull that thread of logic a little bit more. But anyway,
It's just like okay, the moment you ask that question, you have to ask 12 more, and then it's just a mess.
yes, yes, and you shouldn't want to. You really don't want to ask questions, um, in your fantasy. Like it all should just kind of flow. Should feel like
Right.
a lived in world, you know. But we were gonna say goodbye to the CW version of Central City. jitters and all that
Yes.
jazz.
And I'm gonna
Um,
try to remember to say goodbye to my uh CW version of uh it's not
Big Belly Burger.
it's not Metropolis. It's
Oh, that's a Big Belly Burger.
what's the other one?
It's not
National City,
Metropolis.
right?
Star City, National City. National City was
National City.
yeah, generic as hell.
Yeah,
National
it's
City.
not great. It doesn't even make sense.
No. Didn't you get rid
National
of National
City.
City? Didn't you get rid of National City when they did Crisis? Didn't that just get smushed into Metropolis?
No, because they make a whole point of saying that she was going to help out with Metropolis when Superman goes to the not Krypton planet so that Lois could give birth safely.
But that's all pre-Crisis, ain't it?
No, it's after Crisis that they leave.
But when they come back from Crisis, they have twins. Remember? Superman's walking down the street and he calls and he's like, the boys. And he's like, boys? Like they had one boy. Because Heatwave is babysitting in Crisis. Heatwave has the baby, has
I think they.
parts.
I could have swear there was something where they established that like.
That would have made too much sense, GT. You
I could have
connect the
sworn there was
dots that
something
weren't there because they refused to.
because I have just a
I I
masochistic need for logic.
I vaguely remember because of the whole Lex Luthor thing that there was some that he's not in National City in season whatever of Supergirl. I think I twisted my ankle in that plot hole. Um, um, let me know if you see anything about Supergirl. But for all intents and purposes, oh, also got to mention possibly one of the coolest moments. This is the only Flash that would have met the '90s Flash and the film Flash. You know, like this Flash connected all Flashes. We got to meet
It
John
did.
Wesley Shipp and Ezra Miller, and that's pretty damn amazing. And I know
It's
they
not the one.
say
Do they get the Smallville one in there? They probably do.
he's probably like some Vertigo addict somewhere. But yeah, man, I'll see you, Scarlet Speedster, and we'll be back next week for Spider-Verse. But as you know, each and every week, we try to do our best to provide free content as part of the Major Issues podcast, which is available at ComicBookClique.com. Also available there are articles written by us, merchandise you can buy. Just click that Shop CBC link. You can get to our Patreon over there. The Major Issues podcast is available wherever podcasts are found. Podbean, Stitcher, Podcast Addict, the Apple Podcast app, TuneFind, YouTube, Spotify, and more. Just Google Major Issues Podcast or go to comicbookclick.com and everything. All our links are all over there. So go ahead and check us out. Rate and review us on iTunes. If you get a chance, it's free and helps us get a bigger listenership. And yes, buy some merch, become a Patreon, and check us out. Comic Book Click, Google it. We're everywhere. GT, you have anything you'd like to plug?
Um, come listen to us every week over there at Dirt Sheet Radio, where me and John Escudero, aka Yogi, talk about the weekly happenings in professional wrestling. Tomorrow's episode is going to be a doozy.
Yes. Exploding super kick of a doozy. A surprise super kick of a doozy. As you try to review, are you reviewing all three major Memorial Day weekend events?
So we both saw Double or Nothing and Night of Champions.
Fair.
I decided to watch Battleground as a man who had 8 hours of an overnight shift to find something to do with.
Right.
And I also still, for the sake of completion, I actually haven't even seen all of Night of Champions because I didn't get to Trish and Becky.
Yeah.
That's the only match I haven't seen. Plus, I wanted to watch the finals of the Best of Super Juniors tournament in Japan. So there's one match there I have to get to. And I'm just, this is a lot. It's gonna be a long show.
Yep, and I just ran you through 9 seasons of The Flash. So I hope your memory's sharp about everything that happened this weekend. If you had to pick the match of the weekend, what was it? I've
Okay.
like vaguely seen some of this stuff because I was out all this weekend.
Yes, yes, you were. If I had to pick one match that was the best of the weekend that I actually have seen, it probably would be it might be no, because even then there's something about that annoys me. It might be that stupid Four Pillars match, and I don't even think it was that great.
I heard it at least invigorated the crowd.
To a degree, yeah. A close second might be might be the uh might be the Mellow Blonde match. I don't know.
Yeah, I gotta check that out.
Bomb Breaker's a very slow heel,
I saw a clip of
as
old
you could probably imagine.
I seen a clip of old Julius throwing people around still.
Yeah, for like 8 minutes.
Yeah, I was like, this out of control. I don't know what that boy eats, what he's on. I sought out before my flight Elia's match because I'm a big fan, and I just love
That was violent. That was a very good one.
I just love the recklessness. If there's any God in this world,
Yeah,
and we will know. Um, I before I perish from this earth, I want to see Ilya Dragunov against Brian Danielson
I just think
somehow, some way.
I concern myself with the decisions of that man and if he can be reeled in.
I agree, but I wonder. I think he thinks, and I think rightfully so, that he is being held back for either aesthetics or language, and the only real language that's ever really got him
Fabio,
over is the violence.
and some of the wackiness of the
Yes, and some of the wackiness, but
that actually because you know what we talked about it on DSR a little bit because John believes through whatever sources or rumors or whatever that
mhm,
they may want to throw him into Imperium, and while that makes sense aesthetically, I think that fitting him into the Imperium box means taking away a lot of that character,
I do as well.
and that's a shame
Yeah,
because some of the silliness of the hand movements and the facial expressions and the weird like point at the camera
but I guess
thing like
but I guess that's also the point, right? Like stripping him of that would effectively make him more heelish because you
that like it would, but it would also just be like it would also just make him the least interesting version of him, which I guess like
is Ludwig Kaiser.
yeah, to a degree, yes. Like I oh, who did I say this about? I forget, but oh, it was Joe,
Uh-huh.
where people were talking about like Joe would be a perfect like guy to put into the BCC, and I was just like, yes, but he'd also be the perfect guy to like fight them.
Yeah, yeah.
So like maybe it's better maybe we're better off having this guy that kind of fits that mold also just be the guy to just like be the dude launching rocks in the other direction.
It's about creating these interesting matchups on both sides, or you could just make Black Adam fight Superman. You know, you can go either way with it, I guess
Oh
nowadays.
jeez.
But yes, tune into
You're
Dirt
never
Sheet
letting that
Radio.
one go.
Never tune into Dirt Sheet Radio this week, where Greg, Nick, and TMZ's own Jonathan Escudero, aka Yogi, will be talking about this week in wrestling. Get your comics
Nick got
fill.
to be on TMZ as well.
Nick, oh yeah, he did.
He did.
Nick, TMZ's own Nick.
I refused.
Did you out and
Yes.
out? Hey, listen, yeah, you gotta
Uh,
keep your stuff tight, bro. Because next thing you know, they're outside with those cameras and get pretty dodgy.
that's a hard pass.
You got skeletons in
Uh,
those closets? What about them scandals, bro?
just listen.
You don't want to get found out, but if you do, like I said, tune into Dirt Sheet Radio. Those guys are an absolute blast. Some of my best friends, and talking about some of the silliest stuff and some of the best stuff in pro wrestling. So go ahead and check that out there. As you know, we're at facebook.com/ComicBookClique, Instagram at ComicBookClique, and you can use the hashtag ComicBookClique to talk about the newest, hottest, latest, and greatest things that come to comic books and comic book media. We're at Major Issue CBC on Twitter and at Major Issue CBC on Twitch. And I'll say this live on the podcast to see your reaction. I am enjoying Avengers a lot more with the better skins than I was.
Now that they gave everything away.
That I was without it. So you might see me on Twitch, trying to see the love that GT was able to find. Squeeze the blood out of the stone that is Avengers. So I Major Issue CBC on
It's
Twitter.
just a fun
Twitch.
game, right? If you strip all the other stuff away from it.
It totally is. Once it get literally, if you just like keep pressing start and just go, it's an incredibly fun game. And cool cast of characters, and it's cool doing the power ups. It's cool.
It's more fun when your friends are idiots.
Yes. Which I mean, I guess we're lucky to have. So go to at Major Issue CBC on Twitch and on TikTok, I think. Something like that.
If I'm free, I'll jump on with you.
Hey there you go. But yeah, that's gonna be all for this episode. Like I said, jump on the bandwagon before the bandwagon becomes full. I've been to the future where Comic Book Clique becomes the latest and greatest, hottest thing to ever come to comic books, comic book media. And I can't tell you how we do it, because then I would break the timeline, just like Barry. Mess all things up. Next thing you know, The Rock is playing the Reverse Flash and the Flash, because he would demand that kind of thing. And nobody wants that to happen. So, like I said, join us each and every week. Become part of the clique. My name is George Serrano, a.k.a. The Don.
I'm Greg Thomas, a.k.a. GT Rebirth.
And this has been our goodbye to CW's The Flash. And remember, whether you are the Scarlet Speedster, the Streak, the Blur, or the fastest man alive, a doppelganger, a speed clone, a time remnant, a multiversal variant, or the one and only, remember, you can't lock up the darkness, GT.
Oh, Jesus. No, stop it.
Remember, we are The Flash. And always remember that you, yes, you, are worthy. Run, Barry, run.